Well, well, well. Even when there's not a lot going on with the Dallas Cowboys, there is a whole lot going on with the Dallas Cowboys. And so, the Cowboys are now a part of two of the biggest stories in the NFL offseason. One of these stories, I believe, is going to end very quickly. One of the stories the Dallas Cowboys are a part of is the Max Crosby sweepstakes. And I'm not sure how well the Cowboys are going to fare in the Max Crosby sweepstakes because there are quite a few people vying to get Max Crosby. But then on the other hand, we got this issue going with George Pickens. And I got a great story for you about George Pickens and maybe a narrative again that's being created. But nevertheless, I do believe the Cowboys are a very potent team. I do believe the Cowboys probably are about 3 or 4 players away. The question is, will we get those players? This free agency is about to tell us a lot next week, and I'm excited. Let's talk Cowboys. We're about to talk facts. Yeah. Never a dull moment as it applies to the Dallas Cowboys. Man, we got a lot to talk about. I have scoured, as I tell you so often, I have scoured social media, scoured the internet to bring us some of the best stories of the day. Welcome, Cowboy fans and Cowboy haters alike. I'm the G, and I'm the host of Let's Talk Cowboys, where we talk facts. And if you like this live stream, or as you come into this live stream, please hit that like button, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you know the next time we post another video or go live, and we are live. And if you haven't become a channel member subscriber yet, what are you waiting on? Man, we got a lot of great stuff coming up this season. Now let's talk facts. Don't let this list fool you. This list is loaded. This list is absolutely loaded. There are a lot of subcategories that I'm going to deal with inside of this list. But as we are going to be talking today, in the grand scheme of things, are the Cowboys 3 to 4 players away? Then we're going to let that tip over into what does the Cowboys free agency look like? Because in the grand scheme of things, mock drafts mean nothing until the Cowboys get past this free agency period. And this is going to tell us everything we need to know about the Cowboys. Then we got this issue with Max Crosby. This issue with Max Crosby, it keeps rearing its ugly head. And I'm telling you right now, there are some scenarios that we really probably need to consider as it applies to this Max Crosby thing. And as much as I hate it, there are some that I even have to face that they could absolutely be true. Then we're going to listen to some things they talked about this morning on 105.3 The Fan. And then, man, let me tell y'all something. Pro Football Talk had an incredible conversation about George Pickens. And I haven't heard anybody talking about this. But this conversation they had about George Pickens, man, I got to give it to him. It is a conversation worth having. It is absolutely a conversation worth having. And it may not have as much to do with the Cowboys, but it does have some things to do with the Cowboys. So we're going to talk about that. So that's going to be the show for today. 3 to 4 players away. Cowboys free agency, Max Crosby, 105.3 The Fan, and the Pickens defense. Let's go. Let's get it. Hey, let's go. Hey, let's get this roll call. Let's go. Brennan Zanguini, what's going on with you? Good to see you. Frank Lawrence up in here. What up, Frank Lawrence? Reality Cowboy, what up? He said, my baby man G, what up, bro? What up? This Kippy. What's going on, Kippy? He said my other profile is locked. I don't know why. Kippy is in the building. What up, Kip? Ron Hanna, what's going on, man? He said, I'm hoping if they do trade for Max, GP ain't part of the deal. Man, let me tell you something. I got a scenario that we're going to talk about. Reality Cowboy, he said, yeah, we need three top free agents. I believe so too. I believe the Cowboys need three top free agents. I don't think they need the top free agents. I do think they need three top free agents, and I'll explain that in a moment. I agree with you. The Big Rombowski, appreciate that super chat. He said, well, Pickens, watch State 305 with the G. Boy, you are not lying. It is, man, we are on Pickens watch, man. We all Pickens watch, and I'm gonna explain some things about George Pickens as I get there. Big Boss Dog, Lock and D, what's going on? Ty Howard, Bump TY 5 times. What's going on, Bump? From the 903 where I'm from, what's going on? 5 points of the star. Bass is in this thing. What up, Bass? My brother RT Holman, what's going on? Alan the Rebel, what is going on with you? Phyllis, what's going on, Phyllis? Poopy D in this thing got my back. What up, Poopy D? John Jones, as always, he said, what up, G-Money? I'm going to tell you every time it's a New Jack City. What's going on? Brandon Cup, Sub-Zero Prime up in here. What's going on? The True Texan is back. True Texan, what's up? True Texan said we 6 players away. I think we may have some of them players. We're going to talk about it here in a moment. Ron Hanna, what up, my man Ron Hanna? If I said it before again, it's okay to say it twice. Caitlin, what's going on? Chris Dunaway, Marvin Vin Mays, Lonnie Cabal, what is going on? Good to see you today. A Crown, salute, what's going on? Freddie Morales, El Chuco in the house. What's going on? Good to see you today. Let's get this thing going. All right, give yourselves a hand today as we get started. So let's kind of get this thing rocking and rolling. The question is, are the Cowboys 3 to 4 players away? Are the Cowboys 3 to 4 players away? I do believe the Cowboys, I would say closer. I would say the Cowboys are probably 4 players away, but it also depends on how quick can Christian Parker and this crew get this team up to snuff. Because we've already kind of talked about this when we talk about how far. Sexy Suze, what is going on? A name I had not seen in a minute. Good to see you this evening. What is going on? To God be the glory. Good to see you this evening. When we talk about 3 to 4 players away, we've talked about this before. The Cowboys, I believe they have the defensive tackle position is set. Unless they trade one of them, but I don't see it happening. And if they were, only one I would see them trading would be Osa, believe it or not. But they got Osa, Kenny, Quinnen. Defensive end, they got James Houston, or if you're talking about outside linebackers, they got James Houston listed as one of them. Donovan Ezaraku, who's now coming off of a surgery, listed as one of them. You got Demarion Overshown. You got Savon Revel Jr., you got Deron Bland. So that's about 6 of those players, give or take. So you're going to need another linebacker because we know they got a linebacker crew, but they're still going to need another linebacker. And I would dare say the Cowboys need 2 linebackers. I would say they need a top linebacker, not the top of the top, but Nakobe Dean is going to come in here. I think that's going to help us. Quincy Williams, I do believe, is going to come here from the New York Jets. So that'll be 2 linebackers. Minkah Fitzpatrick may hit the free agent market. I do believe the Cowboys need to probably consider going and get Minkah Fitzpatrick or another safety. They're going to need another corner, probably 2. So overall, the Cowboys are probably right around 5 players away. They're right around 5 players away, depending upon what do you believe they already have on the team. This is kind of where the Cowboys are. I do think 3 to 4 of these players, they need to be addressed in free agency. 3 or 4 of these players need to be addressed in free agency. And I do believe the Cowboys have to play on day 1. I do believe they have to play on day 1. Day 1, who I believe the Cowboys may be looking at. I just think Max Crosby, we're going to talk about him a little bit in a moment. I think Max Crosby is such a reach. I just think Max Crosby is such a reach for the Cowboys. Because I'm telling you now, I'm giving the Raiders all the credit in the world. I said this before, I'm going to say it again. The Raiders are genius. I said this 2 weeks ago. Jerry can tell me anything he wants to, but the Jerry and Michael Parsons negotiations got personal. And because it got personal, and it got real personal late in the game, the Cowboys couldn't get what they probably could have gotten for one Michael Parsons. The Raiders can tell us anything they want to also. The Raiders are in a rebuild. You are not interested in a 29-year-old edge rusher being a part of a rebuild, and neither should a 29-year-old edge rusher who is as good as Max Crosby should want to be interested in being a part of a rebuild. The Raiders are not going to get faster sooner than later. They're not the Cowboys. The Cowboys' offense is set. We're just praying that we can get this thing with George Pickens settled and make sure it is what it is. Because I'm going to tell y'all right now, George Pickens, do not let anyone fool you. George Pickens is not solidified being with the Cowboys. All the lovey-dovey talk coming from Jerry Jones, I appreciate it. But this is the football business. And Jerry knows full well this is the football business. George Pickens has not been solidified as being a Cowboy, but we got to get that locked down. We have to get that locked down. We don't want to improve the defense and then subtract from the offense. We got to lock down George. We got to lock down Brandon. Lock down George, lock down Brandon, tweak our offensive tackles, get us another running back, and just really lock that down. Running back, whether that's going to be Jaden Blue and Phil Maffa, whether we get somebody free agency, whether we get somebody late in the draft, or the case may be. But the offense is not far from being locked down. But we got to lock that defense down. We have to lock that defense down, because if we can lock that defense down and keep that offense that we had, and with what Christian Parker is going to be able to do in his crew, I believe the Cowboys are going to be better sooner than later. But we got to get these things all locked down, because other teams are out there. These other teams are out there and they're improving too. But we got to lock down the offense. And again, Max Crosby is there are so many people going for Max Crosby. And I'm going to tell you a team that is aggressively pursuing him, even though I'm hearing that he doesn't want to go to this said team. Chicago is aggressively, and I mean aggressively, pursuing Max Crosby. I mean, they are putting together packages as we speak right now. Now I'm hearing he wants to stay on the West Coast. He's wanting to stay on the West Coast. The San Francisco 49ers have entered into the discussion. So what that means is, and why I say the Raiders have done this perfectly, where Dallas got late in the game, the Raiders are saying, we don't want to trade him, but we're listening. Yeah, that's strange. You're listening right before free agency. Max Crosby is saying, I don't want to get out. I don't want it to get out there that I'm looking for suitors, and I want to be a Raider. While at the same time, we know full well that Max Crosby is out here too, soliciting himself as being somewhat on the market or open for a trade. The Raiders are smart. They're putting the product out there at the prime time. And so teams right now who are preparing for free agency and the draft, they're going to probably try to get Max Crosby now so that they know where they are in the draft. And so I'm really concerned about this as far as the Cowboys go, because I'm just like, what are they going to have to give up to get Max Crosby? Because there are so many teams that are now vying for the services of Max Crosby. Why? We believe the Cowboys may be 3-4. True Texan says 6. Some might say 5. Well, the San Francisco 49ers believe they are probably only 2 players away from the Super Bowl, one of them being Max Crosby and another one probably being a wide receiver. That's why I said before, as we have been talking about George Pickens, and now we're talking about Max Crosby again, the 49ers may consider themselves to be 2 players away, and you never know. They may go for one of them. They may absolutely go for one of them. And they're crazy enough to go for both of them, but I don't think they will, all depending upon where they think they are. But I'm going to tell you now, there are other teams vying. They are vying for Max Crosby's services. And so I'm telling you right now, Baz, let me tell you something. Mafa, I saw it today, man. Mafa, when I saw the picture of Max Crosby, when I saw the picture of Max Crosby and Bosa, man, let me tell you something. Boy, it brought a tear to my eye because I'm like, man, if the league, if those 2 players get on the same team, Bosa and Max Crosby on the same defense? Bosa and Crosby on the same defense. Oh gosh. It would be insanity. It would be insanity. It absolutely would. It's almost like now you're just hoping any other team get him other than some team in the NFC. Problem is he wants to stay over on the West Coast. Now I'm also hearing that the Seattle Seahawks, they're interested in him too. I've said this before. I don't believe the Cowboys need Max Crosby though to be. I don't think the Cowboys need Max Crosby to be dominant. I believe the Cowboys can still be dominant with Jalen Phillips, which I believe that's probably more likely who they're going to be going for. But the Cowboys are going to have to be even careful on him because he'll probably be the second option for a lot of teams. Trey Hendrickson will probably be the second or the third option for teams. And I believe that Trey Hendrickson is the player the Cowboys might wind up with, as much as I know some people don't like that. I believe that he may be the player the Cowboys wind up with, Trey Hendrickson. So you got Trey Hendrickson, Jalen Phillips. I think the Cowboys could do still well with them. I also believe that Nakobe Dean, I mean, this is starting to be a no-brainer. Everybody's talking about Nakobe Dean. And I think that the Cowboys are probably going to wind up getting Nakobe Dean. I think they're also going to get Quincy Williams because I don't think he's going to be a highly sought-after linebacker, even though he's good. But when you put him with Overshown, you put him with Nakobe, then you put him, you got those 2. I think you're looking at something, and then we'll see what happens with Fitzpatrick. But free agency is going to tell us everything we need to know. Free agency is going to tell us everything we need to know. They're going to get better. And again, because the Cowboys are trying to get better sooner than later. Lynn said, Irvin broke down the tag situation in his locker room podcast, similar to what you were saying. Lynn, a lot of people, man, I know where people are. I mean, I know people, I'm going to wait until we get to my George Pickens section, Lynn. And I'm telling you now, Pro Football Talk is going to break this down even. They're going to break this down in a way that's even. You're going to see they are along the same lines of where I was as far as the George Pickens thing. Because one of the things I was asking on X and Angry Cowboys fan, he answered. And he was talking about DeMarcus Lawrence being on the tag and how DeMarcus Lawrence seemed like he was happy. And I saw Lock and D kind of chimed in. But it's one thing for players to play on the tag, because I know there are players who have played on the tag. But I'm very interested in hearing from George Pickens, because it seems like to me that Jerry Jones may be leaving something out as it applies to George Pickens. In my mind, in my common sense mind, I can't find where George Pickens would be happy to play on a franchise tag, willing to play on the franchise tag, having to play on the franchise tag, and happy to be on a franchise tag. 3 different things. 3 different things. Now, DeMarcus Lawrence, he sent me a video of DeMarcus Lawrence talking about he feel like it's double dipping. But I've heard no one else say that, because why would somebody want to give up guaranteed money or risk injury and not getting guaranteed money and saying I'd rather be on tag? And I just can't fathom somebody being happy about that, who know that they're worth. They could be close to $100 million, but they're going to take $28 million. I'm not buying that. I would love to hear George say it, not Jerry say it. I would love to hear George say it. But in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter, because George is the one who's going to have to make a decision. We're going to talk about that in a moment. Superman said, gee, what's the point of restructuring Dak and CD contract if they aren't going to sign Pickens to a multi-year contract as part of improving the boys? Now, Superman, let's follow why he did it. One, the Cowboys were over the cap. You have to be under the cap, according to the rules. You have to be under the cap before the new league year begins. The new league year, let me see. So the new league year starts Wednesday, March the 11th, 2026. So the Cowboys, like every team out there, have to be under the cap by the beginning of the league year. So legal, quote unquote, legal tampering begins March the 9th. Legal tampering begins, which is where basically people start. I don't even know why you call it legal tampering. You should just call it, this is when free agency begins. Because this is when teams start making the deals on Monday. Deals get solidified on Wednesday. They make these deals on Monday and Tuesday. A lot of these teams, they go out, they've already been working on these deals. They're already talking to agents. Come Monday, they get those deals done. They're done with it. They get those deals done. We're going to see a whole lot come Monday. Wednesday, everything is the fallout. Like what's left after all the quote unquote legal tampering and intent to sign deals come up. So one, the Cowboys had to get under the cap before the new league year began. Two, the Cowboys are still only $10 million under the cap. So what we're going to know now over the next few days, we're going to know now how much do the Cowboys intend on spending. Because you can't go into free agency with $10 million. You can't. You're not getting anybody in free agency barely for $10 million. So now we're going to see what is the budget the Cowboys are ready to burst. What's the budget? Because the Cowboys have got to do some more contract stuff to get to the point to where they can work in free agency. Because if I'm not mistaken, again, the Cowboys are only $10 million under the cap. So they got more work to do. So yeah, that wasn't just for George Pickens, Superman. That was for the rules in general. True Texan said, Max's fool's gold, not worth the gamble or the money. True Texan, I just don't think you're going to get him. I agree with you on the fool's gold. You say he's not worth the gamble or the money. You know, and even if you and I agreed upon that, I can tell you who not agreeing on it is Jerry. I think Jerry's got Charles Haley in his mind. And if he can get him, I think he's going to try to get him. But also, the thing that I'm very confident in this as it applies to Jerry, Jerry will not give up the team to get Max Crosby because he's not going to be allowed to. Nobody's going to, they'll fight Jerry tooth and nail on giving up too much for Max Crosby. If you're talking about the number 20 pick, I don't think that'll be a problem for him. You start talking about the number 12 pick, people are probably going to start fighting Jerry over number 12. And there's no way that they would let him get give away 2 number 12s, and 2 first rounders, and I don't think people are even going to let him give up a 20 in George. I think people would be fighting over that, but we're going to talk about that in just a moment. Star Guardian next, he said, I don't see Crosby coming to Dallas even if Jerry tried. I don't either, because he wants a new contract and he sees what's happening with GP. Just my thoughts. Now, Star Guardian next, this is another point that I've already made. People don't understand what Max Crosby is doing either. Max Crosby is complicit. I said this 2 weeks ago. The Raiders and Crosby are complicit. The Raiders want draft picks because the Raiders know they're not extending. Man, mark my words. They're not extending Max Crosby next year. They're not extending him. I'm telling you, they're not. They're not extending Max Crosby. This is the last year of guaranteed money. They're not extending him. I don't think they want to spend the kind of money it's going to cost to extend Max Crosby. No, they're not extending him, and they know it. They know full well they're not extending him. Max Crosby knows they're not extending him. He can see the writing on the wall. Max Crosby is going to go to another team, and the discussion when he goes to that other team is that there is going to be an extension. And even that said team, if they bring Crosby in, they're going to be smart in giving him an extension because his salary cap hit is $36 million. They're going to try and get an extension done with him, whatever team brings him on. Max Crosby and the Raiders are complicit in this plan. Even if they're saying they're not, they're complicit. They know exactly what they're doing. And so I want to let you hear a clip of, I don't know if y'all have seen this yet, but I want you to listen to a clip of Dan Orlovsky. Dan Orlovsky, resident Cowboys hater. He believes the Cowboys are only a few players away from going to the Super Bowl, or at least I think that's what he said was a Super Bowl. Check this out.
Bet that we will spend more money in free agency than we have.
Now, I'm going to come back to this statement right here.
I look at where we are with Dak, and I look at where he is in his career, and I look at some of the pluses that we have on our front and what we think we can do there and what we can do with Pickens and Lamb and what we can do with our running back that we just signed. And so all of those things, I want to do everything we possibly can to stop somebody and to basically win some third downs more than we did last year. And so I think that would be the area that you would see me bust the budget.
Bust the budget, says Jerry Jones, at least on the defensive side of the ball. Dan Orlovsky and Peter Schrager are joining us here now. And Schrags, what do you think? Do you believe what Jerry is saying? He's going to put his money where his mouth is?
I want to set the stage a little bit, coming just back from Indianapolis. You walk down these streets in Indianapolis, it's every team is there. They're all wearing their logos. You turn a corner, and I'm going to tell you something, nothing against Indianapolis. There's not a lot of Louis Vuitton and Giorgio Armani on the streets there in Indianapolis during February. There is a giant double-decker cruiser with the Dallas Cowboys star emblazoned on it right there on Washington Street in downtown Indianapolis, basically saying, here's our flag, we are planting it, and we're going to be letting it known to everybody that we are here. And Jerry's telling it like it is. They're going to spend. They have money to spend, and they have a need. This is a defense that was atrocious last year. They already hired a 34-year-old whiz kid defensive coordinator in Christian Parker, who comes from the Vic Fangio school in Philadelphia and just got done being the mentor and tutor.
I mentioned this today on X, man. Christian Parker has really made a lot of people believe the Cowboys are serious about winning. This was a great move by Jerry Jones. It was a great move by Jerry Jones to allow Brian Schottenheimer to conduct the defense coordinator search. Jerry Jones sat in on every single interview, and it is a great move by them to settle on Christian Parker Everybody kind of knows about who this guy is, it seems. People have been whispering about him, and people are expecting big things from him. And so this was a great move by Jerry Jones, because not only does it make people take the Cowboys more serious, but it also makes players who might not have thought the Cowboys were serious. Now it makes even potential players who are coming here or who could potentially come here, that when the Cowboys sit down and talk, I mean, they're going to consider them to be serious about winning a Super Bowl. And that in itself may get some players, when they start seeing like kind of what you're building, that in itself may make some players go, well, I don't mind taking a, $3 million less to be with the Cowboys. So Christian Parker, this is another one of the reasons why people are expecting big things. And then people are also expecting Jerry to get Christian Parker the players that he needs.
To Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell there in Philly, I look at this free agency class. Jalen Phillips, Devin Lloyd, Alante Taylor, Boye Mafe, Tariq Woolen, all of those names would be names that I am imagining that Jerry, Stephen, and Will McClay will have their eyes on. They also have the 12th and the 20th pick in a very deep defensive draft. There is a chance that Cowboys come out and day one after free agency, we're saying, wow, well, that's been unlike them the last couple of years. They've got the money, they've got the needs, and they have the desire and will with Jerry now another offseason into his career saying, that was a year that was kind of wasted last season where we didn't make the playoffs. I expect Dallas to be big players and putting up those Louis Vuitton, Giorgio Armani prices in free agency.
I don't know.
Okay, let me address something here that Faithful says. Faithful Kicks makes a very good point here. I saw Foots the King talking about this today too. Foots the King talked about how he looked at the tape on Nakobe Dean. He said that the tape on Nakobe Dean looked excellent. He said the problem is with him is staying healthy. And in the grand schemes, your best ability is availability. So if the Cowboys got Nakobe Dean, Faithful, you're making a great point. You bring in Nakobe Dean, you're praying for health. Yeah. You're really praying for health. With another player who's actually been injured, every single season that you've had him in DeMario and Overshown. So, touche. Oh, I get what you're saying there. And let's bring up another point, Faithful Kicks, while we're on it. We're all talking about Nakobe Dean. This is one of the reasons why I'm very interested in hearing from George Pickens, even though I do not believe we're going to hear from George Pickens, at least for a minute. I believe him and his agent are really playing this like gangsters. Real G's move in silence like lasagna. They're playing this real gangster. George ain't going to give anybody anything at this point. So when I heard what Jerry said, I'm cool with it. But I want to hear what George says. And not only do I want to hear what George says, Kippy, I want to hear what Christian Parker says, or at least I want to see what he's thinking. Because Christian Parker is also well aware of Nakobe Dean. So I don't think Christian Parker, when he knows, let me tell you something about Christian Parker. Confident. Very confident in his own ability. And I don't think he'll use friendship as a way to bring in people that may risk him being successful. Because I believe Christian Parker is on his way to being a head coach in this league. I believe he's on his way to being a head coach in this league in about 4 to 5 years. So who's to say he will even want to bring in Nakobe Dean if he don't believe Nakobe Dean can stay healthy? But again, by all reports, Cowboys are on Nakobe Dean watch. So we're going to see what Christian Parker thinks. Because if the Cowboys get Christian Parker, that for me, if the Cowboys get Nakobe Dean, for me, that's Christian Parker saying he wants Nakobe Dean. So we don't even know what he even wants or thinks about this. Ron Hanna said Devin Lloyd. Yeah, a lot of people have been talking about Devin Lloyd. I think Devin Lloyd would be great too. I think he'd be great too. Kippy said, "No, the Joneses lied. Pickens is not happy about the tag, but he gets signed. And again, Kippy, everything we're gonna find out what's true and what's not over the next couple of weeks. What's true and what's not. We're gonna see. A lot of this stuff is about to come to fruition faster, quicker than anybody would have imagined. Brandon said, I think Park and his staff is so knowledgeable that Jerry and Steven are listening to Park and shouting on free agency in the draft because Jerry said he's been wrong for 30 years, and I believe that. Yeah, again, that's why I say we're going to see what Christian Parker is thinking. I don't think they're going to give Christian Parker anybody that he doesn't want. I don't think they're going to give him everybody that he wants. If there's a player out there the Cowboys believe that can help them, they're going to get that player probably regardless of what he says. For example, Max Crosby. If they could get him with very little trouble. But in the grand scheme of things, I believe they're going to give him what he wants. And so we're going to see if he wants Nakobe Dean. Demetrius said, gee, honestly, I really don't trust the Joneses, and I don't believe any of this foolishness that Jerry's putting out. Well, Demetrius, let me tell you something. George Pickens and David Mulugeta, I'm telling you, they're moving like gangsters. They're not saying a word. They're not even, immaturity will make you come out and say things sometimes and be like, nah, I didn't say that. Oh, yeah, I did say it. Somebody's advising George Pickens. Somebody is advising George Pickens. He's not saying a word. And I think it's the best thing that he's done. If I'm George, I don't say a word at all. I'm going to let all my actions do all the speaking. I'm going to let my actions do all of the speaking. Yeah, Sexy Sue says she cannot wait until Monday. Sexy Sue's, I'm telling this now. If we don't hear the Cowboys on day one, if we don't hear the Cowboys on Monday, because that's when, and I'll be honest with you, Sexy Sue's, we probably should already be hearing the Cowboys, or we should at least start hearing the Cowboys towards the middle to the end of the week. And the reason being is that if you kind of look around what's going on already in the league, teams are already making moves. Montgomery is going to the Houston Texans. I mean, we're already hearing moves. We're hearing who people are dropping, and now we're starting to get inklings of who people are picking up. And so as we get closer to Monday, we should start hearing even more of what people are doing. I would assume that would include the Cowboys. It's going to heat up the closer we get to Monday. We can book it. It is going to heat up the closer we get to Monday. And so Monday's going to tell us everything we need to know. So is Wednesday. That whole week is going to tell us everything we need to know. And again, I'm not expecting the Cowboys to get the best players at each position. I just want the Cowboys to get players, good to great players, who are not. And Jerry said something that I absolutely like. Jerry said there is no red shirt. There's no room for red shirts on this team anymore. There's no room for a player coming off of an injury. There's no room for a player that was a failure and this is his third, fourth chance. No, Jerry is saying something. We got to hit. Jerry is saying we got to hit. Period. Yeah, he said we got to hit. So we're going to see. It's going to tell us everything we need to know come Monday. Sexy Sue said I would be restructuring everybody's contract, including the janitors. Yep, I would too. Sexy Suze, I'll be honest with you. If it was me, I go all in this year. Players, I'm going all in this year. I'm not even concerned about next year as much. I'm going all in this year. And I want the team that I get this year to be the team I roll into next year with. Because if I don't get it this year, I'm going to hit it next year. You got to really lock these teams down. You got to have a year. Let's think about what the Seattle Seahawks did. Let's think about what the Rams have done in the past. You got to get to a point to where you have a team that you're not fully building anymore. You got to get to a point to your team, your coach, the coaches, the system. You got the core group of players that you go into a year saying, now all we need is one player. That's how you hit the lottery. You get yourself to a season to where you say, I only need one player, 2 players top. Now, the issue is that requires great drafts. That requires hitting in free agency. But you got to get to that point. If you think about the Seahawks, what did they do? Jerry is not, and I will say Steven is the one that's not acknowledging it. But when you look at what the Seattle Seahawks did, it's incredible. They drafted well for 2 to 3 years. They hit in free agency for 2 to 3 years. They got themselves to a point to where they said, all we need is 2 players. And really it was 1. Sam Darnold. DeMarcus Lawrence was just icing on the cake. DeMarcus Lawrence was just icing on the cake. And he worked, hey, we need a quarterback. DeMarcus Lawrence will help us with depth. You got to get yourself to that point. Philadelphia Eagles, what did they do? The year they won the Super Bowl, Philly got themselves through drafting, through free agency, through cap manipulation. They got themselves to a point to where all they needed was really one player. Who did they bring in? Saquon Barkley. You got to get yourself to a point when you're team building. There has to be a year to where you say, we're not 3, 4, 5, 6 players away. We're 1 to 2 players away. Because when you're 1 to 2 players away, free agency becomes your best friend. Free agency becomes your best friend. And then the draft, it's just icing on the cake. That you can go in the draft and truly say, best player available. And then you get to work on developing those players. And you keep your draft cycle to continue to work well. One of the places where the Cowboys have totally dropped the ball is free agency. You got to get free agency to supplement those great drafts that you have. You supplement it with free agency so those draft picks become great players for you, and some may be role players, and some of them may become starters, but you still got depth in the process. So while you're cultivating players, free agency bridges those gaps. And you got to get yourself to a point to where you say we need 1 or 2 players. Not saying you can't do it the other way, it's just harder because it requires more things to hit when you have to get a whole bunch of players in 1 year and do it. But can you get yourself to a point of going into free agency saying, man, we really only need 1 or 2 players. We only need 1 or 2 players. This is why I want no subtraction from the Cowboys. The Cowboys can't keep giving and taking if they're going to build that Super Bowl team. They got to keep stacking and building. You don't move George Pickens. No, we're going to keep George. You don't let Brandon Aubrey. No, we're going to keep Brandon Aubrey. You figure out your tackle situation. You sign Javonte Williams. You don't rest on your laurels. You say, okay, last year he wore down towards the end of the season. We need us another running back. And we don't need just any running back. We need us somebody that can come in and also be somewhat explosive and make plays. You got to get this team to a point to where it needs only 1 or 2 players. So, again, for me, this year, I'm going all in on players. I've got to get me the players this year because I want next year to be, now we only need 1 player or we need only 2 players. You can't keep going into a season talking about winning Super Bowls, talking about you need 5 or 6 players a year. You're not going to win it because other teams are doing what I'm talking about. They build, they stack, and they get a team to a point to where now it only needs 1 or 2 players. Last Super Bowl, the Rams, the last Super Bowl, the Rams won. They brought in Odell Beckham Jr. You get that team to where it needs only 1 or 2 players, and you're good to go. You're good to go. And this is what you got to do. Oh, man. Rockstar, I don't even want to imagine it. Don't even give me this nightmare. Crosby, Bosa, and Warner, man, don't even give me that nightmare, man. Rockstar, don't even give me that nightmare. How would you even overcome a defense like that? It would be incredible. Demetrius said, gee, I'm convinced that the only upgrade this team will make is the coaching staff. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt, Demetrius. I think the Cowboys are in a situation where they have to upgrade this defense, and I believe they're going to do it. What I don't want them to do is crash and burn on the offense in the process. Rombowski says, seeing teams today making trades and having extensions be part of the deal makes me wonder why Jerry and company didn't do that last season with GP when they had to leverage. Now, Rombowski, now I don't know if you remember, but George Pickens said he didn't want to do no dealing. He said he didn't want to do no dealing. He said he wanted to play a season and not think about football. I think that was David Mulugeta in his ear saying, no. Puka Nacua is coming up. And you're going to have an incredible season with Dak Prescott. Man, let me tell you something. I guarantee you David Mulugeta is probably a motivator of motivators. I guarantee you he told George, we're not signing yet. You're about to have an incredible day. You're about to have an incredible year. Guarantee he told him that. You're going to have an incredible year with Dak Prescott. Why? Because Dak Prescott's an incredible quarterback. I guarantee you he told him that. He bet on it, and he did. And he did. Bottom line. All right, so Mose Logan said Parker gonna take Shotty's spot. Well, I'll tell you this, Mose Logan. Mose Logan, let me tell you where I am. If I was Brian Schottenheimer, I would welcome Christian Parker to take my spot. Because more likely than not, if Christian Parker takes my spot in the right circumstance, he took my spot because we won the Super Bowl. He can have it. Now, if he take my spot because I failed, then I'm sad. All right, I'm sorry. Let's listen to Dan Orlovsky. As Dan Orlovsky gives us his take on how many players he believes the Cowboys are away.
Anything about those brands. I do. I think if you've been paying attention really since Super Bowl, I'm in the small camp that thinks that there's just another window for Dallas opening. And I think that I believe Jerry Jones's comments because the NFC is wide open, even still coming off of Seattle kind of dominating. If we just, there's a lot that can change throughout the offseason, no question. But if we're sitting here going, okay, what teams do we have high expectations for in the NFC right now that we truly believe are going to carry into August, September? I would tell you, yes, Seattle, but Seattle also can get raided. And if I was Dallas, I would raid Seattle with some of their talent. And they're going to have a new offensive coordinator. Mm-hmm. The Rams, no question about it. And Chicago and Green Bay are teams that we can bank on. Other than that, Philadelphia's got some question marks.
Well, you know what? He's making a great point. He's making a great point about Seattle. Man, let me tell you something. Philadelphia wins a Super Bowl. Tell me this isn't crazy. Philadelphia wins a Super Bowl, comes back last year, and there are no major changes on the squad. Man, everybody was talking all crazy about Kellen Moore. Man, it's amazing how he looked without Kellen Moore. It's amazing how he looked without Kellen Moore. Man, the offense looks stagnant without Kellen Moore. I mean, Jalen Hurts looked terrible without Kellen Moore. Saquon Barkley didn't even run the same. Sam Darnold still has a lot to prove. See, it's one thing when you prove something. It's another thing when you have to be consistent in what you proved. Sam Darnold, there's a reason why he's kind of been a journeyman. 14 games, Minnesota felt like he crumbled down towards the end. They didn't extend him. Seattle, the defense pretty much carried them in that Super Bowl and the running game. So in the grand scheme of things, Seattle is one of those teams. They're going to have to continue to focus on getting better because they're still kind of suspect. Chicago Bears. We saw what happened with the Commanders when Quinn goes in there as the first-year coach. They win 12 games. Come back following season, injury-prone. Battle of attrition. They got all kinds of injuries. And so now you don't even know where the Commanders are. So the same thing with the Bears. Same thing with the Rams. Both of these teams, we don't know what's going to happen to them here this coming season. So Dan Orlovsky is right in this sense. This thing is here for the taking. You got your coaching staff. Now, if you can get them the players, you're on to something.
There's going to be a new offensive coordinator.
Missed the playoffs.
Detroit, new offensive coordinator.
Coaching matters.
Chicago, I think we can bank on them. And Minnesota doesn't necessarily have a starting quarterback right now. And so if you're Dallas and you're Jerry Jones and you know you've got a championship caliber offense, you're not as bad as your defense was last year. You're not that far away on defense. You get 2 or 3 impactful players and really on the edges of your defense and at linebacker.
Oh, God.
I think you've got a chance to contend right away. I truly do.
Before
I understand what Orlovsky is saying. I think he's got a great point. The question is, who do you get on the outside of that defense? Who do you get on the outside of that defense? Because I do believe that's where the Cowboys are going to have to be fishing in free agency. And I'm a little bit concerned that the Cowboys kind of was like, they don't think Jadeveon Clowney can work out inside of this system. And I don't see why he cannot work out inside of this system. It seems to be a little bit more there too. But the Cowboys, whoever plays on that outside, it's going to be a big deal. And this is why I believe this is where the Cowboys are going to probably try to make their splash in free agency. This is why I see Jalen Phillips. I see Jalen Phillips. I see Trey Hendrickson, and in some crazy way, it could even be Max Crosby. I just don't think that's going to happen because I do believe the Max Crosby sweepstakes. Just watch what happens over the next few days, man. If I'm not mistaken, they've said that there is one team out there, and it may be the Bears. They've made 3 offers to get Max Crosby. 3. The closer this gets to Monday, the more Max Crosby sweepstakes are going to heat up. And I just don't know if the Cowboys can get in there. But Dan Orlovsky, he believes that the Cowboys are about 3 players away. He believes they're about 3 players away. And I got the betting odds. I don't really understand these betting odds. I'm not a betting person. It just seems to me, if I'm a betting person, it seems like, maybe I'm crazy, but it seems like, I don't know, you people who bet, what does this mean? Decipher this for me. If the Cowboys are a plus 700, is this meaning the Cowboys are more likely to get Crosby or less likely? Because when I look at these teams, there are 3 teams that are at the back of this race. Cowboys, Rams, Eagles. They're at the back of this race. Let me see if I can see where the 49ers are. Let me see. The 49ers are plus 600. So tell me what this means. Does this mean that these teams are more likely to get Max Crosby? And so if you were betting on these teams to get Max Crosby, you wouldn't win much money because the likelihood of them getting him is that high? Is that how I'm reading this? Y'all let me know in the comments. Is that how I'm reading this? Yeah, Lock and D said they're already linking players they want, G. Yeah, Bass said, I want to hear news about the Cowboys and Jerry and Steven tampering. Me too. Frank Lawrence said the Cowboys can get the right free agents. All they have to do is offer up so much guaranteed money. These guys will need a wheelbarrow to go to the bank. Guaranteed money is always the key. What up, Rico Jones? Appreciate you. Yeah, Rombowski, money's going to tell us everything we need to know. Because if you don't hear the Cowboys' name, they're going to be getting a lot of the day 2 and day 3 players. They're going to be playing more on day 2 and day 3 because the day 1 players, people start playing. They play the day 1 game on Monday. So when Wednesday comes, day 1 is just about signing deals. So we're going to see how that go. DC4L George, say it again. Never show your hands before you get your deal. Yes, sir. Kippy said, I want Pro Bowl caliber players in free agency. Hey, let me tell you something. Christian Parker's already sent this message, Kippy. Have you noticed what he keeps saying? They need smart players, smart players, smart players. Yep. Christian's on that same, he's on that same wavelength. He's on that same wavelength. Rombowski, it takes more than a season to be one or two players away, drafting solid on both sides of the ball. Seattle did it. Seattle drafted extremely well. Great free agency signings are two things Jerry and company have not done for the past 5 or 6 seasons. Now, where I will give the Cowboys the benefit of the doubt, they have their quarterback, their running back, and if they lock down George, they got more than what most teams have at wide receiver. They have their tight end. And the Cowboys are loaded at wide receiver. I think we are watching the evolution of Ryan Flanoy. The Cowboys are going to have a problem extending Ryan Flanoy once he really gets going. He's got a very high ceiling. But the Cowboys got players on offense where a lot of teams would have to go and hit on some of these players and develop on the draft. Cowboys don't have that problem offensively. The Cowboys just got to keep what they have. They just got to find a way to keep what they have and then tweak that offensive tackle position. Now, defense, on the other hand, that's where they got a lot of work to do. But again, Big Rombowski, the place that they could supplement that defense where they don't have to develop talent because the Cowboys have been terrible at drafting defense. Man, if you can't draft them, trade for them. Trade for them. When you look at the players we have now, I mean, Kenny and Quinnen, probably two of the best players we traded for them. Man, get those guys extended. Get those guys extended and go out there and now you just got to go out there in free agency. Get you 2 or 3 more. If you can do that, you got a good shot. I believe you have a real good shot. But, hey, Rombowski, they're going to have to hit on all cylinders in free agency. They got to hit on every single cylinder. There cannot be one misfire. Poobie D said an odd signing needs to be, yes, sir. Poobie D. First day. And Poobie D, this is why we need to be hearing the Cowboys' name around Thursday or Friday. We probably need to be hearing the Cowboys' name around Thursday or Friday because a lot of these teams are already doing stuff. So we need to be hearing something, but if not, at the latest, Monday. Super T, he said, I just moved to Vegas. I need this stream. Yes, sir. Let's go. Hey, Monday, we better be hearing the Cowboys all over the place, man. I would love to hear the Cowboys at least two times in signing somebody. It would be great. Because last year, man, we played way too late. Way too late. Way too late. But this is kind of where Dan Orlovsky was. I thought this was very interesting. Dan Orlovsky feels like the Cowboys are, and it sounded like that was about 3 players away. 3 players away. And so when you start talking about the Cowboys, the question becomes, and one of the big questions for the Cowboys is, how much will the Cowboys spend? Man, I was reading some stuff this morning, and it is astounding when you start talking about the Cowboys in free agency. The Cowboys in free agency typically only spend about $3.4 million per player. I want you to think about $3.4 million per player. Who in the heck are you getting in free agency at $3.4 million a player? And in some of the years where the Cowboys have spent big money in free agency, unfortunately, that's been extending and signing their own players. Case in point, Dak Prescott. So in the grand scheme of things, as it applies to rosters, Cowboys are typically not they're typically not big money spenders. And I got a couple of things I want to show to you real quick. Got another video I want us to watch. NFL on NBC, they were talking about how much are the Cowboys willing to spend in free agency, because this is going to be a very big deal for the Cowboys. But again, the Cowboys typically only spend about $3.4 million. That is, man, you ain't getting nobody for that. You're not getting anybody for that. I've been telling y'all, for me, this is how the Cowboys must approach this free agency. Just like you have a draft board, I believe the Dallas Cowboys should have already put together, and I'm sure they have, put together a free agency board. And the way I would put this free agency board together, it is different than I would put together, for example, a draft board. On my free agency board, what I would have on my free agency board, okay, I was trying to do two things at once. On my free agency board, I would have a list. I would have every position listed that I need. And I would have a list of what I call big fish, medium fish, little fish. That would be my draft board. And if I'm the Cowboys, on day one, I have listed big fish. If I'm the Cowboys, I have a list of about maybe 15 players that I'm considering big fish that I'm willing to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to overspend on, and I don't know any other way to say it. I'm just going to say it to myself. These are the players. Let me see if I can pull this up. I'm saying to myself, these are the players that I'm willing to overspend on. These are the players. Because I believe you have to get to that. You just have to do this for free agency. We have been way, way, way too conservative. You have got to already be planning this, and I'm sure the Cowboys are. But you got to get yourself to a point. You got to get yourself to a point to where you're saying, I'm willing to these are the players that we're just going to be willing to spend for. You got to do it. I don't know any other way that you're going to be able to get some of these players that you want, because teams out here, man, if the Cowboys haven't figured it out already, and if we haven't figured it out already, man, let me tell y'all something. Teams are serious about this Super Bowl thing. They are serious about winning the Super Bowl. And so that means that the Cowboys are going to have to be serious too. Let me go over here real quick, just for an example. Looking at free agency. See if I can pull this up. Hold on. Looking at free agency. Cowboys got to make a decision on this. They have got to be willing to spend. For example, we got over here the edge rushers. So we already know that Max Crosby is already a part of this. So we already know Max Crosby is already a part of this equation for the Cowboys. So the next question is, so the Cowboys have got to decide, who are the big fish on this list? Now, I would just tell you right off the bat, for me, I mean, it's a no-brainer. I think Trey Hendrickson, I say Jalen Phillips, I would say, I don't know about Joey Bosa. And look at this. This is the part that I'm very confused on. Look at this. We can have this guy if we want him, and we're saying we don't want him no more. I heard something today that was absolutely astounding. They're actually saying that as far as sacks go, this is the best year that The best year that Jadeveon ever had was with the Dallas Cowboys. I don't know. I just think the Cowboys really need to reconsider Jadeveon Clowney. There seems to be something about Jadeveon Clowney playing for the Cowboys. I don't know what they're saying the fit is not, but he just seems like a very versatile type of player that you should be able to acclimate into your system. Maybe I'm crazy. But when you look at these big fish at the edge rusher position, I mean, the really two big fish, because I'm not counting Max Crosby, it's Trey Hendrickson and Jalen Phillips. It's Trey Hendrickson and Jalen Phillips. And maybe Khalil Mack, depending upon how much money he would be asking for. Maybe Khalil Mack. But those are really the two huge, huge fish. There's another guy here. I'm not familiar with this guy, Josh O'Shea. I'm not really familiar with him. I'm kind of on the fence as it applies to one. I'm really on the fence as it applies to one Joey Bosa. I'm really on the fence as it applies to him. But I would consider those guys, those day one picks. Y'all tell me anybody else you want to put on that list. But that's kind of where I am as it applies to, if you're looking at the edge rusher position, that's what I consider that's what I consider to be a big fish. Jalen Phillips, and Trey Hendrickson, because I believe those are the two pass rushers that everybody's going to be going after. I really do. And so the Cowboys, man, they got to make a decision from that perspective on where are they with those players? Where are they? Because if you're not going to play in that realm, I'll be honest with you. Y'all tell me, if you're not going to play in those realms, I just don't think you're playing. I just don't think you're playing. Yeah, Tatiana, I mentioned that at the top of the show about Donovan Ezeraku. I just kind of slid it in as a matter of factly. But yeah, Donovan Ezeraku is going to miss training camp. And so if Donovan Ezeraku is going to miss training camp, you might need to go into this season saying that also means he's probably going to miss some of the regular season, or he's not going to be where he needs to be by the regular season. That's a big deal. Real estate vet, he said one thing for certain. He said, I live in Henderson down the street from the practice facility. Max is going somewhere. All of his advertising posters and billboards are all down. Oh, yeah, real estate. Man, you know he going somewhere. Real estate. You tell me if you agree. I think the Raiders and Max Crosby are complicit. I believe they are complicit. They don't want him to be a part of the rebuild. He don't want to be a part of the rebuild. They know he's going to need an extension. They're saying they don't want to trade him when they know full well they want to trade him. And Max Crosby knows full well I'm a Raider for life. Man, everybody say that. Montgomery said when he leaves and go to Houston, he's taking a part of the Houston Texans. He's taking a part of the Detroit. When he go to Houston, he's taking a part of Detroit with him. Yeah. Yeah, Ezekiel Elliott is a doggone Cowboy for life, but he ain't here no more, is he? Man, these guys are not. And again, what they're doing is smart. This is how you do it. If you want to get traded, if you want to get draft compensation, this is what you do. You don't do what we did, get into a serious fight after everything is over. Don't even fight about it. Just come to a conclusion, man. Hey, this is what it is. Max Crosby is going to be huge news, I believe, in the next 10 days. He's going to be huge news. But again, I got my list together from the Cowboys, and I'm like big fish. And if I'm thinking big fish, I'm just telling you, Trey Hendrickson, Jalen Phillips, Khalil Mack. I'm thinking about, I don't know if I would call Joey Bosa a big fish. Joey Bosa may be a medium fish. Now, I'm not sure, like I said, Yahoo, I'm about to look up Josh O'Shea. I may come back with my board tomorrow on free agents that the Cowboys should be looking at. I just think there are people on here that the Cowboys should seriously be considering. And I say if you can't get that big fish, then maybe you look on this list and say, okay, Well, we got to sign maybe multiple of these people. This is why I still say, if I'm the Cowboys, I still got to be considering Jadeveon Clowney. There are names on here like Hassan Reddick. I think Hassan Reddick may still have something in the tank. Y'all tell me what y'all think. There are players on here that I believe the Cowboys should be thinking about. And then, of course, you get over to the linebacker situation. The ageless wonder, Bobby Wagner, is there, but I'm sure the Cowboys are not going to bring in him. But another big fish I would consider would be Devin Lloyd. I've been hearing people talk about Devin Lloyd. Quincy Williams is on the list. I see him on there. He's right below Nakobe Dean. So both of them are on there. But again, I mean, you got guys on here, man. Y'all, hey, this is another guy. If I were the Cowboys, Quay Walker has got to be on the list. Quay Walker for Green Bay. He got to be on the list. But again, the Cowboys have got to go through all of this. And they have got to be putting up big fish, medium fish, little fish. Who are they willing to go into free agency and say, we're playing? We're playing. Don't go into free agency with Max Crosby being the only thing on your mind. No, you go into free agency saying, nah, bruh. We got to back up to the backup to the backup to the backup plan. That's what you do if you're the Cowboys. Let me go down the list and see if you guys put any more people on there. Cowboys, Dan is not credible, but a dead clock is right twice a day. A dead clock is right twice a day. Yeah, Tatiana Bass is going to be, of course, a second-round tender. But I'm going to tell you the one that I would love to have if I was another team. I would love for the Cowboys to keep him. Brock Hoffman. Man, you know, Booker and those guys are just too good. But, boy, Brock Hoffman. Ooh. Ooh. Boy, Brock Hoffman. Brock Hoffman is a dog. He's one of those players you definitely don't want to miss. You definitely don't want to be without. Kalen, I got a strange feeling they're going to work out a deal with Brandon Aubrey. The Cowboys do not want to get rid of Brandon Aubrey. I could hear the way Jerry Jones was talking. Now it's not going to shock me, but I do think the Cowboys are going to diligently try to get a deal done with Brandon Aubrey. And this becomes a part of the problem with the Cowboys when you start talking about free agency. Sometimes the Cowboys' free agency is comprised of extending their own players. And so that becomes the huge issue. They're extending their own players, and some of that counts towards the free agency money. True Texan said it, Clowney is the man. Man, I really think Clowney need to be a part of the mix. Lock and D, they want younger edges. I agree with you on the younger part, but man, you got to have a combination of this stuff. You got to have a combination. Brian said they wanted to have a good mix of young and veteran players. Man, I'd have to get Clowney in if I get Clowney at the right price. But again, I just wonder if this is Christian Parker saying this. Blue Star said he was solid on the defensive line. Yeah. Richard Owens, what up? Patty, hey, you know what? Patty, you know what? I can make a case. Patty, I can make a case. I went back and did the same thing with Micah Parsons. Nobody cares. At the end of the year, Patty, this is all they say. How many sacks you had? When you go back and look at a lot of the sacks that Micah Parsons had in Dallas, a lot of the sacks he had in Dallas was against the Commanders, the Giants, the Panthers. But that's not what people look at when they're looking at these players. They're looking at the totality of the sacks. And so even without Jadeveon having sacks against quote-unquote major teams, I still say he had impact in games because he's also good against the run. Craig Bill, yeah, he's already changed the defense to the 3-4. But Craig, keep in mind, the Cowboys keep telling us this, and I'm not sure if we're listening. They're not going to run 3-4, at least what they're saying. They're going to be multiple. They're also going to run 4-3, and they're going to run 5-2. They're going to run 5-2. So they don't just need players that fit the 3-4. The Cowboys need smart players who can read and react. The Cowboys need some really, really good players. They need some really, really good players. This is just the bottom line. They need some really good players. Khalil, you know this is funny, don't you? Hold on, see. Khalil said, breaking news. He said Washington Commanders trade J.D. Daniels for the Raiders number 1 pick and number 36 pick. Man, we know that's not happening. If that's happening, Dan Quinn is out of there. Dan Quinn is out of there if that happens. What up, Newhouse fam? All right, so, man, Pro Football Talk was talking about some of this stuff today, and they were saying, how much are the Cowboys going to spend in free agency? We got a couple of good videos from them today. Let's check it out.
Sometimes you got to admit you let the fans down. 30 years since they've been to an NFC championship. And
then to go and win a Super Bowl.
Do you feel you let Cowboys fans down by not having the success you had in the 90s?
Yes. Yes, I do.
Jerry Jones, hey, sometimes you got to dig deep to sell those season tickets and get people to show up to the game. Sometimes you got to admit you let the fans down. 30 years since they've been to an NFC championship, and I still believe there's an element of hucksterism, if that's even a word, in Jerry Jones, where...
Now, keep in mind, you're going to hear some things that's probably going to sting your ears a little bit. I forgot his name on the left here. He is not a Cowboys fan, and he's an ex-lawyer, and I think some of his takes are really bad, but nevertheless... Robert Dudley said, even if 42 gets us 6 to 8 sacks, the pressure and tackles for losses, I'm for him as our number 2 edge rusher, need a number 1. Yeah, I know what you're saying. They need a dynamic guy. They need a guy that would free him up. They need a guy like a Jalen Phillips. They need a guy like a Jalen Phillips, like a Max Crosby. They need a guy that's going to command double teams, which would probably get Donovan Azaraku on those more one-on-ones and see if he could beat some of those. But even Brian Broaddus was saying he was a little bit surprised that Donovan Azaraku was not able to beat some of these guys that he was able to beat in college. He wasn't able to beat them in the pros. See, it was real surprise. Angie the Rebel Chicks, what's going on? All is well. All right. Let's check out what they're saying about the Cowboys spending that money, Angie. Let's check it out.
He knows he's got to keep them engaged every year. He knows he's got to make them think that this year could be the year. You got to have the season ticket renewals. You got to have the fans excited. The reality is every year they are making obscene amounts of money, all 32 teams, and only one of them wins the Super Bowl. But it has been a very long time, and with each passing year, it gets more and more glaring. I never would have dreamed it would get to 30, but here we are. The question...
Big Brumbowski, boy, Mike Florio is the biggest hater, isn't he?
Is how many more years beyond 30 will it be, Chris, until the Cowboys get back to the game that decides who goes to the Super Bowl?
Well, I will say they made some big moves last year. I certainly wasn't in favor of them trading Micah Parsons. I was not. But in trading them and kind of messing up that situation, did they make the best of it? Yeah, I kind of do believe they made the best of that situation when it was all said and done and did what they had to do to improve their football team. I agree with you on what you say with Jerry Jones to a degree. I know where we differ is I do think Jerry Jones really wants to win that Super Bowl and wants to hold that thing up and be like, screw you, Jimmy Johnson. Like, I do think that's there. I think his ego's so big, he definitely wants to win one by himself without having anybody else get credit. So I do think that's real. Now, you look at their team, you look at their roster, and you go, it doesn't look bad. That's for sure. I mean, the offense with the franchising of George Pickens, which, of course, is expected, is top notch. I mean, there's nothing to look at the offense. The O-line's good. Maybe they could get another running back, but it's not like, I mean, Javonte Williams is good as we know. I mean, they got everything you want. Playmakers, a receiver. Dak Prescott was phenomenal last year, maybe one of the best years of his career. The defense, it's pretty damn good too. Now, there's a few spots you can look at, and that's where maybe they can find a pass rusher in the draft here. And this is a draft, again, if you need front seven, this is the draft for it. So the Cowboys, yeah, I do look at them and go, I think, as it looks right now, and I know we haven't even hit free agency and we haven't hit the draft, but even what they got on the roster as we sit here, I go, can they be a pain in the butt and a big player in the NFC next year? I do. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
Now, I want you to think about something that Jerry talked about. And I mentioned this, and I don't know if y'all caught on to it. But one of the things that I'm concerned with, and we'll see what happens, Cowboys already think they have some of these players. The Cowboys believe they already have some of these players. The Cowboys' belief is, and I don't know where y'all are with this, but I'm telling y'all right now, the Cowboys believe, and let me see something here. The Cowboys, contrary to what we think, they already think they got some of these players. They do. They believe they already have some of these players. Their issue is the reason why these players were not good is because of Matt Eberflus. I'm telling y'all right now, the Cowboys already think they have some of these players. And when you look at the Cowboys' current roster, if you just listen to the Cowboys talk, of course, they believe Donovan Ezeraku, and I'm going to tell you right now, as excited as I was last year about Donovan Ezeraku, Donovan Ezeraku is not a bust. But I believe Donovan Ezeraku did nowhere near meet the Cowboys' expectations. I know he didn't meet my expectations. Donovan Ezeraku comes out of college with 17 and a half sacks. I thought this dude, they was talking about he was a technician and all the things he was going to do with his hands and his moves and his repertoire. And I don't think he's a bust, but he definitely wasn't what I thought he was going to be. Now Donovan Ezeraku having the hip surgery. Now, when you start messing around with these guys like him and wide receivers and running backs who need this, they have to be these kind of twitchy players. Maybe this is what was going on with him this year. He had this labrum issue, and so he couldn't be twitchy the way that they wanted him to. So, Donovan Ezeraku, they think he one of them players. Kenny Clark, they think he's one of them players. Also Digizua. And also Digizua. Let's just keep it 100% real. Osa Odigizua didn't quite perform after getting that big-time deal the way everybody thought he should have performed. Quentin Williams, he's a unicorn. Shamar James, they think he's one of these players. I believe they think Shamar James is one of these players. Deron Bland, and Angie on here, and Angie know what we were saying, in particular what she was saying about Deron Bland. I mean, Deron Bland, man, he got put on skates a couple of times this year like he was wearing church shoes playing football, as somebody mentioned the other day. The Cowboys, we don't know if they're going to get rid of both of these doggone safeties, as far as they go. And both of them, they probably need to replace them. But the Cowboys believe, man, a lot of these players that they already have, they're banking on these Overshones and these Savon Revel Juniors. I mean, we're going to see if Traquez Bridges is still on this doggone team. And then I heard him talking about Kalen Carson. We're talking about people like Zion Childress. I mean, the Cowboys, I believe, they feel like they already have some of these players. Jay Toya, the guy we forgot about last year. The Cowboys think they already got some of these players. They do. They think they already have some of these players. And so they feel like the coaching is going to make the huge difference with the players they already have. And then if they go and get a couple of players, 3 to 4 players, 3 players in free agency, maybe 4, and then you go get you a couple of really good draft picks at the top, that's 5 players. So the Cowboys kind of already feel that they're there, I believe. Because I notice how they keep emphasizing, we already got those players.
There have been many years over the last
keep it, that list isn't up to date
going into the season, but then something happens. It's always something for the Cowboys that keeps them from reaching their perceived potential. I just think that it's sad to think that someone who has been that successful financially can't fully enjoy it because he's tormented by this obsession with winning another Super Bowl that he can take more of the credit for. I think he'd like to. I just don't think that he's nearly as focused and determined, and I just don't, because he still won't pay a coach to not work for him. I mean, if he was willing to try to keep the program moving in the right direction, why would you keep a coach a year longer than you really wanted to, simply to justify paying the coach? It's stupid little things like that that make me think.
You talking about Mike McCarthy?
There's a deeper play here, and it's more about making as much money as possible. But speaking of money, he was asked about free agency on the bus on Friday night. Here's what he said on the plans for spending in this upcoming wave of available veteran players.
I would bet that we will spend more money in free agency than we have. The only way to push more is for me to go borrow some of my future. And I look at things, frankly, beyond that. I look at where we are with Dak, and I look at where he is in his career. And I look at some of the pluses that we have on our front and what we think we can do there and what we can do with Pickens and Lamb and what we can do with our running back that we just signed. And so all of those things, I want to do everything we possibly can to stop somebody and to basically win some third downs more than we did last year. And so I think that would be the area that you would see me bust the budget.
You know, I do have to say this. Of all the people who don't need to wear the combine credential, to the NFL. The one guy whose name, face, and voice is instantly recognizable, does he really need to have the combine credential, especially on his own bus? But I saw the straps hanging there, and it's just funny to see who chooses to put that thing on and who doesn't. But he was wearing his credential, so no one could doubt that it was indeed Jerry Jones. And he said at the end, bust the budget. Now, 2 years ago, remember the whole all-in thing?
Yeah.
He was asked the question at the Senior Bowl about all-in, and he used all-in the traditional sense, and then they spent the next 3 months gaslighting us on what all-in means. I don't know if there's another definition for bust the budget that they can try to soft landing their way to other than, busting the budget when it comes to free agents. But, they've got to create cap space. They'll restructure contracts. That's easy to do. It's not that hard to create dollars in the current year. And everybody borrows or borrows against the future. That happens. We see that. The question...
Man, we're going to deal with Mike Florio, man. Mike Florio, we ain't got time to you making fun of our Texas accents, man. Anybody in Texas know what Barry is? Stop it. We heard our grandparents say stuff like that all the time. We know what Barry is. Talking about borrow or Barry. Stop it. Leave this man alone. What up, C. Burleson? Stop making fun of these Texas accents, man.
Is how much are they willing to spend in cold, hard cash now for available free agents, especially on the defensive side? He's written the check to the fans. Let's see if he writes the literal check to the players.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting to see. Jerry Jones, we've discussed this before, the Jones family, they have an eye for talent. They do. They do have the eye.
Yep.
It's some of the other stuff that you've talked about. It's the other stuff we've talked about. Their inability to get in front of contracts and that play out and then not build the team the right way and cost themselves other players because they have to overpay for people where I go, wait, we add these 3 guys up, you overpaid them all by $7 or $8 million. And yeah, now it's, $24, $30 million that you lost by overpaying. That's another 4, 5, 6 guys on your team that could have helped out to make the roster more deep. The coaching thing, like you talked about, he meddles too much. He gets involved in that. All right. Yeah. I mean, he's too involved that way. So there's a lot of positives about Jerry Jones, certainly. And you look at them right now and you go, yeah, they're not far off. They're not far off. But I think you look at it and go, like we talked about, there's not much offensively you can look at to go, they need something there. It's about the defensive side of the ball. It's about pass rusher. It's about middle linebacker, maybe one other guy in the secondary. Probably need another cover guy. So, yeah, between free agency and the draft, how do they spend those resources and go about that? I'm going to be interested to see. Is there like Devin Lloyd of the Jaguars? Is he a guy they'd make a play for in the middle of a defense? He's phenomenal. He's one of the best linebackers in the sport. They do have Kenneth Murray, who's been around a little bit. Demarion Overshawn, who came back from a serious knee injury last year. I don't know. But where do they make that move? I certainly think pass rusher is still probably the biggest thing on their team you look at to go, they need to improve that area. They got some depth, they got some players, but they don't have that guy. And I think they would try to address that this offseason.
And one of the reasons to go out and spend on free agents, they're going to use a 3-4 defense for the first time since 2012. So you need to have the right personnel to run it. That's one of the biggest challenges if you switch from a 4-3 to a 3-4. You've got to have the right people. You've got to go out and find the right fits. And that's going to take some effort. And it creates a situation where the coaches on the staff are going to maybe be inclined to guys they've got connections to, so it makes sense to look through position by position who the coaches are, where they've been, where the free agents may be available, and you just kind of follow the trail that way to what the Cowboys are going to do. But they say they're going to spend. Chris, I'm skeptical because we've heard this before. Let's see what they ultimately do. And they will get $66 million in cap space by restructuring the contracts of Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, and Tyler Smith. That money doesn't evaporate. It just kicks into future years, and they'll have to deal with it in future years. But for now, it creates cap space. $301.2 million is the 2026 cap limit. Clearing 66 gives you some room to work with in 2026 if you're going to spend real dollars this year. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, unless I'm missing something on the Cowboys cap, and this, and let me show you this over the cap, for example. See, this isn't yet up to date, but the Cowboys were $56 million in the red. They freed up $66 million. From what my understanding is, the Cowboys only have $10 million in cap space right now. So they're going to have to continue to work deals over the next few days because you ain't going in you're not going into free agency with $10 million. They're going to need way more money than that. At least that's what my understanding was. They're going to need more money than that unless there is something that I'm not aware of. Yeah, unless there's something I'm not aware of, but I've seen this more than once. But the Cowboys only have $10 million so far in cap space. They still got work to go. So somebody let me know if you know of something else about that issue as it applies to the Cowboys. All right, let's go over here and let's check out this thing on Max Crosby. Rich Eisen was over here talking about the Cowboys getting
first-round picks.
Him and Tom Pelissero was over here talking about Max Crosby and where Max Crosby could possibly go. And of course, Dallas Cowboys comes up in this discussion.
All those remain open-ended questions, but if we're just looking at this from a leverage perspective, when do you maximize your leverage? I would say it's sometime before the market opens 1 week from today. As a first-time head coach, and also changing over the defense now with Jim Leonhard.
What's the story come out of a combine? I mean, is it still Max Crosby, even though we didn't really get much smoke or fire on that front over the weekend? Tom?
I would say Max Crosby and his future is as big of a story as you have in the NFL right now. We talked about this last week. We've heard what John Spytek said publicly at the podium, that he expects Crosby to be there, that they've got a great relationship. They talk and text all the time. We have not heard directly from Max about how he felt about those comments, how he feels at this point about his future. I have gotten roughly 50 Instagram story alerts from Max, who appears to be in the facility shooting all 22 tape of himself making plays, showing himself boxing, shooting hoops, proving in a variety of different ways, A, I'm still a great player, B, I'm a lot closer to health than other people might think that I am. And the Raiders, even though they're not proactively making calls, I would believe that they are going to continue to get calls. And anybody who needs a pass rusher is going to be interested in this because, you know, there's Trey Hendrickson, Odafe Owe. You got a few guys in free agency, but really a trade for Max, if you're not going to draft one, is probably your best way to get an elite type of pass rusher. Those guys just don't hit the market. So if I'm thinking, who would be the teams that would make sense for Max Crosby? Again, I think anybody who's a contender and has sufficient cap space or the ability to create it should be involved. But, you know, a few that would come to mind would be the Chicago Bears, a team that people will remember swung another trade with the Raiders for a pretty high-profile pass rusher in Khalil Mack some years ago. They feel like
the Bears are really making a push. And I guess thankfully for everybody, Max doesn't want to play in Chicago.
they're close. They were right there at the end in the playoffs. Could Max Crosby be somebody that puts them over the top and elevates that pass rush? I think that would be a fit. I could see Buffalo. You know, they've got some things they've got to work out in terms of their salary cap and how they're going to devote their resources in this offseason with Joe Brady coming aboard as a first-time head coach, and also changing over the defense now with Jim Leonhard calling the plays there. But, you know, for Max to come in and join that team that's been looking for a closer,
Kippy, I think Jerry's going to work.
Signing Von Miller years ago, I could see that being a fit. And then the one that everybody wants to keep talking about, and I do believe that it makes sense, is with the Cowboys. Max is from that area. He trains in the offseason with CeeDee Lamb. The Cowboys have ammunition. They don't have any day 2 picks this year, but they got 2 first-rounders. They've got enough cash and cap flexibility. Jerry Jones has indicated they're going to be aggressive, and I believe a lot of that aggressiveness is going to be focused on the defensive side of the ball. What is that price tag going to be? Is it a first-round pick and more? Are the Raiders going to draw a hard line at getting 2 first-round picks? All those remain open-ended questions. But if we're just looking at this from a leverage perspective, when do you maximize your leverage? I would say it's sometime before the market opens 1 week from today. Because the moment some of these teams that need pass rush help go and spend that money someplace else, you start to run out of suitors, kind of like the Bengals did last year with Trey Hendrickson. Max Crosby is different than everybody else who's available. He's 29 years old, coming off of a knee surgery, but still very much in his prime. A culture changer behind the scenes. Obviously one of the best defensive edge players that we have in the entire NFL. He's different, but you still need the money to pay him, and you need the picks, the ammunition, maybe a player to go and acquire him. The moment you start making other moves, it becomes harder. So if the Raiders are going to trade Max Crosby, there's no hard deadline on it. He doesn't have like a conversion or anything like that makes it from a contract.
No, it's a hard deadline. And the reason why it's a hard deadline, you got to get a team in desperation mode. Because once the draft is over, once free agency is over, what's the value? What's really most teams by that time are pretty much settled. It would behoove the Raiders to get this done with Max Crosby here over the next 10 days.
But I have to believe the Raiders are approaching this, that if they're going to trade him, doing so before next week would make sense.
No doubt.
Even before the draft,
no doubt.
Obviously. I mean, that would have to be the deadline. And
Right.
And the Cowboys fascinate me in that regard, because if they end up trading Micah and using the draft choices they get to go get Max Crosby, I understand Crosby's 4 years older, but he's also a different guy in the locker room. It would be a different setup. And certainly, if I'm the Raiders, I'm intrigued by that 12th overall pick based on all those defensive linemen.
No.
I just saw
Hold
out.
on. I'm struggling with the Cowboys giving up the number 12 pick for Max Crosby. The Cowboys can give up the number 20 pick for Crosby, but the 12th pick, I mean, that's one player away type of move for me. But again, Jerry might want Max Crosby that bad. I mean, he might really want Max Crosby that bad, for real.
At the combine, if you can get Mendoza and one of them, you might be tempted on that front, even though Max Crosby means so much. It's interesting that the thing is fascinating to me. But the Cowboys, aren't they in the worst cap hell of any team in the NFL right now? Obviously, things can be massaged, but right now they're almost $60 million over the cap. Tom,
there's different contracts that they can dip into and create cap space pretty easily, doing simple conversions on Dak Prescott, among others. They'll get him back closer. There's also the possibility you could trade a player in a deal to go get a Max Crosby, which would help alleviate some of that. And then when you go back to the Micah Parsons trade, there's a lot of different ways that you could look at it, and that's one of those where it's defining trades that we'll all be talking about for years to come and analyzing it and hyper analyzing it. But if you look at it from this perspective, if in the end, based on where all these picks ended up going and what they did with them, if they traded Micah Parsons in essence for Kenny Clark, Quinnen Williams, and let's say Max Crosby, that's a pretty good haul that allows you to accelerate your rebuild as opposed to just taking those picks, drafting players, and hope they develop into those types of core talent.
Man, let me tell you something. If they pull off Kenny, Quinnen, and then Max Crosby, you have to win. You have to win that trade. You have to win it. And the only way you win it is by winning. The only way you win it is by winning. I believe we're going to see another clash between the Green Bay Packers and the Cowboys in a very important game. I will not be surprised if they're both competing for who goes to the Super Bowl in a year or two. But it's all going to come down to those players. But I'll tell you something else. I'm going to throw a couple of scenarios out there before we move over here to 105.3 The Fan. I'm going to throw out a couple of scenarios to you that are a little bit concerning for me as it applies to, I got a strange feeling. Jerry wants Max Crosby bad. I don't know who's talking to him about this. I don't know how they're all trying to work this, but I got a feeling that Jerry wants Max Crosby bad. I would not be surprised if they sent a player to the Raiders with a first-round pick, like the number 20 pick, and a player. Man, I'm going to tell you a player that a lot of people aren't talking about, and I've heard a few people mention it. But the player that wouldn't surprise me, the Cowboys would send to the Raiders, it wouldn't surprise me if they sent Oso Digizua. I really wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if they sent Oso Digizua. I mean, if I had to choose between Kenny, Quinnen, and Osa, I'm choosing Osa to trade. You send Osa. He's a young player. You send him to the Raiders. You send him to the Raiders and the number 20 pick. You can replace Osa. You got Perion Winfrey. Solomon Thomas played really well. You got Jay Toya. Jay Toya should be a monster in the middle. He should be a monster. You got to see if that draft pick develops under these coaches. I would not be surprised. I really wouldn't be surprised if the Cowboys were to trade Oso Digizua. They're not talking about it, but it wouldn't surprise me. There's another scenario that concerns me. This one concerns me. Also, Diggy Zua, I wouldn't be as concerned. You know, that might actually be the way to go, because I don't think it affects your team as much as it does when you're talking about George Pickens. Another way that the Cowboys may go. This is where I'm hoping that this doesn't go to places that we don't want it to go to. But just what if? What if this thing with the Cowboys and Pickens starts going the wrong way? And as for much as George Pickens, quote unquote, wants to play for the Cowboys and quote unquote is happy to be on a franchise tag, I really want to hear him say that. But what if the Raiders really came at George Pickens, not the Cowboys? What if the Raiders really came hard at George Pickens? Right now, the number one free agent, and I don't understand why they're calling him a free agent. The number one free agent is George Pickens, they're saying. He's not a free agent. Not in the grand scheme of things. Cowboys can always match the offer. But what if the Raiders really came aggressive and said, you know what, George, David Mulugeta, we're willing to make you the highest paid wide receiver. We're willing to give you $42 million. We're willing to give you $80 to $85 million guaranteed. We're willing to give you that. You come here, we'll do that. And then on the backside of that deal, you're like, and then Dallas, how about we work this to where, let's say we don't do, because see, what people don't understand, you actually don't have to get 2 first-round picks. Let me pull all of us out of La La Land. You don't have to get 2 first-round picks. You have to get the equivalent of 2 first-round picks. The equivalent. Or the Cowboys still have the option that if they agree that they don't even necessarily need that, they could flip it around and say, okay, we'll rescind the tag and we'll make it a trade. You take George, we take Crosby. We take Crosby, you take George, we take your 20th, and maybe we give you a 2nd-round pick. So they get George, a 20th, we get Crosby, and a 2nd-round pick from the Raiders. And George Pickens gets, let's say, $43 million. Who's to say the Raiders don't come hard at David Mulugeta and George Pickens? Because I'm going to tell you right now, man, this is the football business. This is the football business. If somebody was to offer George Pickens $42 million a year, the Raiders going to offer him $42 million. He's 24 years old. What would it matter to George if he was a part of a rebuild? He's 24. He's not 28, 29. He's 24. You're going to make him rich? I hope it doesn't happen. But I'm telling us, I just wouldn't be surprised on anything that's coming up in this free agency. Teams want to win the Super Bowl bad. I'm telling y'all, people don't understand how bad teams want to win the Super Bowl. Teams want to win the Super Bowl bad. They want to win bad. And the Raiders, them and Tom Brady could be saying, man, we get George Pickens. We get Mendoza. We get another 1st-round pick. We get us another edge rusher to replace Max Crosby. And we work this team. I'm very concerned. I'm telling y'all, George Pickens isn't locked down yet. George Pickens is not locked down. And a lot of people are wanting George Pickens to operate with the Cowboys under a verbal agreement. The franchise tag is not a guarantee of an extended deal. David Mulugeta, I'm telling you, because agents are like lawyers, and I'm telling you, if I were an agent, I would be telling my client, hey, man, you got to decide if you're going to trust Jerry Jones, or you got to trust whoever it is. For them, a bird in the hand is also a bird in the bush. It's not guaranteed that if George Pickens stays with the Cowboys, he's going to get a Super Bowl. That's not guaranteed. I mean, I believe that it is, but that don't mean that David Mulugeta's convinced of that. Doesn't even mean that George is convinced of that. All of this, a lot of this is going to depend on where George is and how much is he listening to David Mulugeta. Because I'm telling you, man, I believe Jerry wants Max Crosby bad. I really do. I believe he loves George Pickens. I believe he wants to keep George Pickens. But I'm going to tell y'all this. I'm just going to keep it 100% real, man. You don't put a player you love on a non-exclusive deal. You don't. I don't care what anyone says. You don't put a player that you absolutely love, you don't put them on a non-exclusive deal. You can tell me anything you want to. Oh, we know ain't nobody going to come with no first-round pick for George, 2 first-round picks for George Pickens. Ain't nobody going to come off of him $41 million. Ain't nobody going to come off no $42 million for George Pickens. He ain't all that. I'm going to tell you this. You don't take that chance on somebody that you truly love. Nah, you don't take that chance. You don't take that chance. When you take that chance, you're saying, I'm willing to lose him. I'm willing to lose him. Angie said send him Osa and Guyton. I'm telling y'all, I wouldn't be surprised if they sent Osa. I wouldn't. I think people value, and the reason why they value, I believe they would value Kenny, is because Kenny can truly play that nose tackle. I believe that 3. Poopy said, gee, I'd rather pull of Clark, Williams, Downs, and Styles in the lane. Pull of Clark and Williams. Okay, you're talking about in the draft. Okay, you're talking about Kenny Clark. Williams, you're talking about Sam Williams. Then you're talking about Downs and Styles or Delane in the draft, I think we're saying. I got a strange feeling they're gonna if they could, they'd send Osa. I think they're gonna release Sam. But again, I'm telling y'all, man, GP's not locked down. He's not. GP's not locked down. Angie said give him Turpin too. Hey, they might take Turpin. They might take Turpin. I'm for real. Catherine the Kids, what's up? But again, man, I'm telling y'all, George Pickens isn't locked down. There's no way he can be locked down. It's a non-exclusive. Man, let me tell you something. We don't know what somebody is working up in the lab right now. And I'm going to tell you about David Mulugeta and these agents. Man, y'all better stop playing. This is a dirty business. We better stop playing and thinking that this business ain't dirty. David Mulugeta is already planning his next move and probably already has his next 3 moves planned. Appreciate you, Angie. I'm telling you, GP is not locked down. Y'all tell me what y'all think, but I don't think he's locked down. You know, I'm telling you, man, I'm not putting anything on a non-exclusive that I love, not me, because I'm not willing to lose it. When I put something on a non-exclusive, I'm still taking the chance. I'm still taking a chance on losing it. I'm not doing it. I'm not putting nothing I love on a non-exclusive, care what it is. Demetrius said GP number will go back to where they were in Pittsburgh, not to mention the new rookie quarterback. He may get his paycheck, but the frustration in Pittsburgh may very well return. to return. But you know what, Demetrius, maybe it don't. Maybe it don't return. Maybe Mendoza does become good. But I'm telling you this, man, these players also are thinking about their life. They're thinking about their life too. They're not just thinking about football. It's a business. It's grown man business. But we'll see. I'm hoping everything turns out to where no one makes an offer for George Pickens. But even then, I'm going to talk about it on the next segment. Oh, the second to the next, oh, the last, I'm sorry, we're going to talk about it on the last segment. We're still going to have some hurdles. Even if nobody offers George Pickens, y'all understand there are going to be hurdles with this George Pickens deal. Because George Pickens and his camp are playing this so close to the vest. Nobody knows when George is going to sign this, is going to sign the tag. Nobody knows what he's going to do as far as off-season workouts. Nobody knows what and who George is going to listen to as it applies to how he proceeds. I'm telling y'all, man, this is about to be an exciting, and I hope it's not drama, but it's going to be a very exciting off season, because we got to see, not only are we going to find out if the Cowboys are going to get Max Crosby, we're also going to find out when George is going to sign, or we're going to find out if he's going to sign that doggone franchise tag in the next two weeks. We're going to find that out too. And then we'll slowly see whether or not George is going to be participating in any offseason programs. I'm telling you, man, this thing is with George.
The one thing
is like when I was young, they would call it a booger bear. Man, this thing is going to be a booger bear as it applies to one George Pickens. All right, let me see here.
You know how you pop, though?
All right, this was Bobby Belt and these guys talking this morning. We're going to come back and finish up on George Pickens. We got a couple great articles on George Pickens, man. I want y'all to hear Pro Football talk about George Pickens, man. Mike Florio and Sims, man, what they start to say about George Pickens is, and it's beyond George Pickens, so y'all going to enjoy the conversation that they had. I haven't seen anybody talking about it, but the conversation that they had about George Pickens, man, it makes you go, I see exactly what you're saying. Hold on, let me close a couple tabs here. All right, let's check this out over here on 105.3 The Fan. And this was their conversation about all things Cowboys this morning, Max Crosby and some other things. Let's check this out.
You know how you pop, though? Make trades for guys like Max Crosby. This is what Albert Breer wrote about Max Crosby specifically. I'd lean toward a Max Crosby trade happening, and maybe this week.
For the Cowboys?
It just says Max Crosby being dealt. That he'd lean towards it happening this week. He said, there's going to have to be some needle threading. I don't think the Raiders want to go through the song and dance of shot.
James Bowie, I like what you said. I really hate that franchise tag. It's too risky for the players to play on it. I agree, but we're going to find out.
Him, nor do I believe Crosby wants it advertised that he's looking for suitors, given his bond with owner Mark Davis and his view of himself as a Raider. So what would be the cleanest for everyone is for a market to emerge organically, and that could happen given that most teams are going to start spending their cap and cash budgets and filling roster spots a week from now. Vegas, to be sure, isn't going to give Crosby away. I also believe, though, that it'd be difficult to find the haul that the Raiders got for Khalil Mack 8 years ago, or what Dallas got for Micah Parsons last year, or what the Dolphins received for Laramie Tunsil in 2019. All of those guys were traded for packages fronted by 2 first-round picks. All those guys were also much younger, nearing the end of their rookie deals. And then at the bottom of this, he goes on for a little bit more about the dynamics that exist between the Raiders and Max Crosby. He said, we should know soon enough which path the Raiders are taking, with teams like Chicago, Baltimore, Buffalo, New England, Philadelphia, the Rams, and the Dallas Cowboys keeping tabs on his availability. I'm in.
Yeah, we've disagreed on this. You're in at 12. You're in for. Are you in for 12?
Yeah.
Or does it have to be 20?
No, it could be 12. If you just tell me it's the one, then I don't. I imagine it'll be 1 plus. But if you just tell me it's the first, if you just tell me it's the 12, I'll make the trade.
Are y'all willing to give up a straight across 12 for Max Crosby? Anybody willing to give away the straight across 12 for Crosby? Straight across 12. Straight across 12, nothing else. Just the 12. That's tough. That is tough. But I could see the Cowboys doing it. I do. I can see the Cowboys doing it. I'm telling you, I wouldn't be surprised if they did that. I mean, I say don't touch the 12. I say the 12 is too important. If I'm gonna give away that pick, it's got to be the 20. I can't give away the 12 because, man, there are some players. Man, you mess around and Sonny Styles falls to that 12. Oh my gosh, man, ain't no dog. Jeremiah Love mess around and fall at that 12. Caleb Downs, one of those type of players mess around and fall at that 12. Boy, you'll regret it like you did Randy Moss. I couldn't do the 12. Not me. The 20, I could do the 20. I can't do the 12. I can't do the 12. I just can't. Caitlin, that's what Albert Breer is talking about. Albert Breer is saying he don't believe they're going to get that 12. I mean, he don't believe they're going to get 2 first-round picks. So this is where the market is going to speak on one Max Crosby. Yeah, I don't think nobody's going to give him 2 first-round picks, but they might get a first and a third. Could get a first and a fourth. Could get a first this year and a first next year. We'll see. But if I'm the Cowboys, man, I'm not giving away that 12. Ain't no way. Ain't no way. Derrick Rose, what up? He said, G, look at it this way. Who you going to draft at that 12 spot? Who? Derrick, I'd be too afraid who might fall there, man. That would be my issue. I know a bird in the hand. But, man, that 12 pick is too much for me. That's too rich for my blood. I got to see who's going to fall to 12. That's going to be a great pick this year. That number 12 pick is going to be a great pick this season. I can't do it. I can't even give the Raiders that kind of firepower. That's too much for me. Yeah, Rico Jones, even Michael Irvin still talk about that doggone Randy Moss deal. Ain't no way.
Not going to be 2 ones. Let's find the team. Here's my exercise. Let's find the team that would give up a first rounder better than 20. All right, I'm not doing 12.
No. Yeah, that's too much.
Jets doesn't make sense. Arizona, no. Tennessee, no. Giants, no. Would Cleveland do something stupid and be like, look, we're not going to score any points. Let's just have Garrett and Crosby on the same line. But common sense would tell you no. Washington 7, that feels a little rich for me. You guys can agree to disagree.
It said the Rams are taking value on him. Would they F them picks 13?
Yeah, because they have another one. And
yeah.
They're in a much different. Either they're in a different position than the Cowboys.
Here's the list.
I mean, their window may be the same length, maybe shorter.
Commanders 7, Saints at 8, no. Would Kansas City throw 9?
I don't think so.
Feels a little rich.
Feels like they got other issues.
Cap issues.
I think they're taking Love at 9, don't you?
Love may not be there.
Albert Breer, NFL insider with some Dallas ties, says, look for the possibility that Max Crosby is traded this week and that the Cowboys will kick the tires. Where are you on using 12 or 20? Not and.
Yeah, definitely not and. I'm out on 12.
Okay.
To me, is Max better than who you're getting at 12? Yeah, tomorrow he is.
Sure. Yeah.
You've got to be able to.
Okay, so there's an echo? Okay, I'm trying to figure out where my echo is coming from. I don't see no. So I'm getting an echo, and I can't figure out where that would be. Oh, y'all hearing an echo from my voice or just that broadcast right there? Because I'm trying to figure out where the echo would be from.
Win now and win tomorrow at the same time. Like, that is the sweet spot, the cheat code, the trick. And
all right, so
I just don't think you do that by trading away the 12th pick for somebody who is he's on like the 16th hole, 15th hole of his career. 14th hole.
Edge rushers can go usually till like 34.
Yeah, they can. I mean, they always do, right? And like,
ones usually do.
If he is like, is he at his peak? Is he on the backside of his peak?
Yeah, it's probably about now.
The peak.
Yeah.
Right. So, like, the Raiders have already gotten the best of Max Crosby.
He's 28.
Most likely.
Whatever it is,
29 in August.
So I'm going to let it play.
Most likely, we've already seen that he might have a year where he pops.
He would ball out for 3 years. I'm confident he'd ball out through age 30.
Andrew said this is the echo back in time. Okay, I don't know what's going on with the echo. All right, I'm making sure y'all can hear them talking though, right? All right, so y'all can't hear them talking? Man, I'm blowing it on this interview.
Paying Crosby and Pickens.
Man, I am blowing it on this interview. I'm sorry. All right, so y'all, okay.
You got to factor all that into your team building.
Yeah, financially,
It's not just like,
Are we hearing echo now?
rather have Crosby than 20.
Yeah, if everything's equal, I'm trading 20 over George. If everything's equal, I'm trading 12 over George. But the reality is that if you want to get Max, you're probably going to have to trade George to him, I think. Because you can afford it, but how thin is the rest of your team going to be? If you keep George,
I mean, Max is what you would have gotten, like what you're using that.
And see, this was the issue I was talking about earlier. See, they're talking about this issue, and it's like they're trying to put, it's like they would try to put the Cowboys to the test of seeing if the Cowboys would trade George Pickens. This is a doozy. This is a doozy. We're going to see how bad they really want Max Crosby. I don't know, though. I got a strange feeling. I believe if this was only up to the Cowboys, I would say they're not going to do it. But my question is, would the Raiders try to make a different type of run at George Pickens to where maybe it's not 2 first-round picks, but maybe it's George Pickens? We get George. That's what I'm wondering.
Capital on. Like if it's just a single pick that you planned on using that pick for a defensive player to come in here and make an impact, that would be Max.
No, but I'm talking from a cash perspective. Like, if you keep George and then you get Max.
If you get Max, you are not signing Trey Hendrickson, or you're not playing at those financial levels in free agency. So you adjust on the free agent.
That's what I was kind of talking about with an 8 versus 2 6s.
Mm-hmm.
Or would you rather sign Hendrickson for nothing or trade 12 for Max?
Sign Hendrickson for nothing.
Without giving up capital.
Hendrickson for nothing.
This is one of the reasons why, see, I'm with y'all. I'm not giving up George Pickens for nothing. There's nothing they can offer me. This is why I believe who the Cowboys are going to wind up getting is going to be Trey Hendrickson. I mean, if I was a betting man, I really believe the Cowboys are going to get Trey Hendrickson on Monday. I don't think it's going to be Max Crosby. I think it's going to be Trey Hendrickson. Jalen Phillips might be a part of the play, but I think it's going to be Trey Hendrickson. I really think the Cowboys like Trey Hendrickson. They were looking at getting Trey Hendrickson last year, and the deal fell through. I think Max Crosby is one of those things where if all things align, they'll get Max Crosby. But I believe that teams will be after Max Crosby so hard that the Cowboys are going to lose out on Max Crosby. And there's no point in trying to work up a deal for Max Crosby that you know you're not going to be able to get. Because I do believe, I'm telling you, watch what I tell you. San Francisco is going to make a huge push for Max Crosby. I see San Francisco making a hard push for Crosby.
Cash and picks is a lot.
And don't get me wrong, I love Max Crosby.
Love him.
I love Max Crosby. I'm a little Broadus has me worried about Hendrickson physically now. And then the injury history, even though our guy in Cincinnati told us in Indy, now don't worry about the injury thing, but yeah, I'm not having to give up picks for it.
Yeah. I think it's going to be Hendrickson. I just got a feeling that Hendrickson is who they're going to try to get. I think they're going to try to get Hendrickson. I really do. Yeah, Hendrickson was hurt, but understand this, Rico Jones. Max Crosby's coming off an injury too. Yep. Max Crosby is coming off of an injury too. He had some meniscus cleanup, I believe, and he's trying to show people that he's ready to go and he's this and he's that. But I think it's going to be Hendrickson. I really do. And maybe Jalen Phillips. But again, all right, let's get this last segment in for tonight. Appreciate y'all rocking with me tonight. Man, let me tell y'all, I watched this today. And I normally don't watch these before I listen to them with y'all unless it's something like the Jerry Jones thing that I really want to listen to so I could get my mind right. But this conversation that Pro Football Talk is about to have about George Pickens. Man, this is something that really makes you think. JCT, what's up, JCT? He said if they are all defense, he said the offense is set with Dak Prescott and those wide receivers. Three or four good players on defense could absolutely help Dak get over the hump. We still have 4. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Big Amish. What up, Big Amish? He said, Hendrickson, we got Love at 12. Then George Pickens may be on the way out, depending on two first rounders in the draft. I think it's going to be Trey Hendrickson. Angie said, can we get a refund on Milton and Mingo? Unfortunately, no. I think they like Joe Milton. But Mingo, I don't think we're ever going to see Mingo. Not when you got Ryan Flanoy playing the way he is. You got Kevontae Turpin. You moved him into one of the wide receiver spots. Then you got George and CD. Only way you're going to see him is on an injury. You ain't going to see him on nothing else. Sub-Zero, appreciate that super chat. Sub-Zero said between Max and Hendrickson, I would take Hendrickson because I think that Max is trying too hard to prove he's good to go. Yep. He's out there really trying to prove it. Poobie D, I got a strange feeling, my brother. You are not going to have to worry about Lattimore. Dan Quinn right now should be on notice for getting Marshawn Lattimore. I'll never understand why Quinn went and got Lattimore. It don't even make sense, man. Why would he go get Lattimore? Should be on a final written notice like we used to do when I used to be in the retail world. Should be on a final written notice for that nonsense. All right, I want you to hear this thing on George Pickens. Check this out. Oh, no, I ain't trade. Whoa, man. Ooh. Caitlin, that right there, I still have to think about it. But I think about it, but, Angie brought up Jonathan Mingo. Maybe I would trade for no, even though I know he's going to be him. If you were going to tell me you were going to extend George Pickens, I might be willing to go with that and send Mingo. because the Raiders might like Mingo. Mingo's going to be I think he's going to be somebody's second receiver in this league in the next few years. All right, let's check out this thing with Pickens, man. This thing is incredible what they were talking about.
The one thing that George Pickens and Micah Parsons have in common is they're represented by the same agent.
Yes.
David Mulugheta.
Right.
That was something, as Pickens began to ascend last year, that was something that we were talking about. It's going to be Jerry versus David round 2. Here's Jones from his Friday bus session on wanting to keep Pickens around and negotiating with David Mulugheta or negotiating directly with Pickens, as the case may be. Here's Jerry.
Regarding his representation, I can clearly work with his agent, not clearly to you, but clearly to me. I have no issues. We haven't met, as you well know, but we haven't met. But to the end that we can have discussion about him and other players that he represents. We understand the angst that's there, how he's representing and his goals of maximizing the dollars. And he clearly is accomplished enough to know the alternative to...
Oh, don't worry, Angie. This conversation they're having right here, this is a powerful conversation they're having. Check this out.
That is our job of managing the club and the salary cap and getting as much mileage out of the cap as we can. No mistake about how much we want George Pickens to be a part of our future. And I would want all of our fans to rest assured that I have every intention of working very good with his agent.
Yeah, he probably said something similar about Micah Parsons at some point over the past few years.
I'm going to tell y'all right now, man. I've heard, it's like I've heard almost every angle about this whole franchise thing and people saying he ought to be glad to play on it. I'm not agreeing with that kind of conversation. And I'm not mad at anybody who's having it, but I'm not agreeing with that conversation because when you are somebody like George, you work your whole life to get to a point to where you can get that big payday. And George feels like he's there, I'm sure. And I think he's worked hard enough to do it. But again, man, tell me anything you want to. Tell me anything you want to. And you cannot convince me otherwise. You don't put a person on you don't put a player on a non-exclusive tag if you're not willing to lose them. When I hear Jerry Jones saying what he's saying, this sounds like to me you've been in a very serious relationship with someone. And you, on the other hand, you feel like you've been doing, going the extra mile and trying to make this relationship great. And you see so many different things. And you're like, yeah, man, I think I'm going to marry this lady. I'm going to marry this young lady. And you telling your friends and everybody can see, man, y'all look so good together. Y'all look like the perfect couple. Boy, I wish I had a relationship like y'all's. And then one day, young lady just your girl sit you down and be like, you know what? Everything's been great. You've exceeded my expectations as a boyfriend. But I think we ought to see other people. What? No. I'm not saying it's over. I'm not saying it's over. I want us to keep dating. But I also think we ought to see other people. Tell me anything you want to. That you don't put somebody you don't want to lose on a non-exclusive tag because your explanation for doing it is no one else is going to come and give this offer 2 first-round picks. But then the other side of this argument don't make sense to me either. Because people are saying that the market is going to prove how much George Pickens is worth. We got to stop being brainwashed by people talking nonsense. If George Pickens was on the open market, understand He's not on the open market. He's on an exclusive market. Now, it's ironic. The tag is non-exclusive, but George is on an exclusive market. And what I mean by that is that any team that wants to talk to George, they not only have to pay him the money, they have to give up 2 first-round picks or the equivalent thereof. Explain to me again how that proves what George Pickens is worth. Who would give up even for CeeDee Lamb 2 first-round picks and pay CeeDee Lamb $36, $37 million? When the Cowboys signed CeeDee Lamb, they didn't have to make the decision of, we're going to give up 2 first-round picks and sign CeeDee Lamb. No, sign CeeDee Lamb for $34.5 million. The Bengals didn't have to decide on giving up 2 first-round picks and signing Jamar Chase. The Vikings didn't have to sign Justin Jefferson and give up 2 first-round picks. It makes no sense to me when people say, oh, this is good for George because the market is going to decide what he's done. No, it isn't. It isn't going to decide what he's worth. It isn't. It may decide how bad somebody may want him. Case in point, Max Crosby. The Raiders are not asking. The Raiders are not asking for market or Max Crosby. If the Cowboys was just being asked to pay probably somewhere around top 3 money for Max Crosby, they would probably figure out a way to do it. But that's not the market for Max Crosby right now. The market that the Raiders is setting is, you're going to take on his contract, but you're going to give us 2 first-round picks or a first-round pick and a second and a third or whatever the equivalent of 2 first-round picks are. Explain to me again how that is telling what the market is. No, that's not telling what the market is. That's not telling what the market is. That just tells you that if a team comes after Max Crosby, they're telling you that's not the market. This is how bad we want Max Crosby because we think he's that player that's going to help us win. Case in point, Micah Parsons. $46 million or whatever Micah got paid, that in itself was not the only market. It was the fact that they were going to give the Cowboys 2 first-round picks. That's the difference. That's the difference. And so we're doing the same thing with George Pickens, and we're saying as if it's going to tell us what he's worth. It's not telling us what he's worth. It's just not, because it's not the same argument. George Pickens' market may actually be $35, $36 million. Some team may actually be willing to pay him more than Jamar Chase. They're just not willing to do that and give up 2 first-round picks. That's not the market. That's an exclusive group of people. Someone would have to come get George and say, well, we feel like we're 1 player away. That's what Green Bay did with Micah. This is why whoever gets Max Crosby, watch what I tell you. They're not paying market value for Max Crosby. They want him so bad they're willing to pay to do what it takes because they're saying we're 1 player away. So the Cowboys are banking on the same thing with George Pickens because the only teams that's probably going to come at him are a team that's saying we're 1 player away and they're banking on that not happening. But let me flip to the other side of this. Just because a team doesn't come after George, that doesn't mean that George Pickens' market is only 28, 27, 26. Because the reality is, we still won't know what George Pickens' market is because he's not on the open market. I don't understand why people don't understand the math. It's actually fallacy to say that this is going to prove what he's worth. It's not. If he was on the open market and no one had to give up first-round picks, then you'd know what he's worth. But the fact that you tack on those 2 first-round picks, that doesn't show what he's worth. All you're proving there is, does a team feel like they're one player away? And that's where you're going to get a lot of teams probably not going to do that.
But if you do a long-term deal with Parsons, you're going to structure it in a way that reduces the salary cap number below $27.3 million, which is the franchise tag number. And you mentioned the market, it's 40. I went over the weekend position by position under the franchise tag, top of the market versus the franchise tag. For some of them, the gap isn't glaring.
Right.
For receiver,
glaring.
It's ridiculous.
Glaring.
For quarterback, it's ridiculous. For cornerback, it's ridiculous. For multiple positions, the gap is like, what in the hell? How did this happen? And I hope when they inevitably, over the next couple of weeks, elect a new executive director of the NFL Players Association and the NFL swoops in quickly with its proposal for 18 games, we can do this the easy way or we can do this the lockout way. I hope that the NFLPA, not that the franchise tag's ever going to go away, but good Lord, can we make the franchise tag better reflect the current market dynamics? 27-3. Who's making 27-3 that's an elite receiver? Who the hell's making 27-3? They're all getting at least 30, if not at least 35 at this point.
Well, yeah, I agree. There's some damn good receivers around $27 million, but not where George Pickens wants to be. You're in the DJ Moore, Jalen Waddle conversation. T. Higgins at 20.
See, this is a very powerful conversation they're having. And this is where the Players Association is going to have to do better in these CBA agreements, because this is another issue with the George Pickens contract. And this isn't as much about the Cowboys as it is about the NFL. So we're basically saying, when you look at George Pickens, there is no way Brandon Ayuk, Terry McLaurin, Amon-Ra St. Brown, A.J. Brown, Garrett Wilson, DK Metcalf, they're not better than George Pickens. They're not better than George Pickens. Even when you figure, especially when you figure in the quarterbacks they've played with, they're not better than George Pickens. So the league has determined it's a $27 million franchise tag. But in reality, if you were really looking at the top paid wide receivers, George should probably be somewhere around 32, 33 right now. He should already be at 32, 33 right now on the franchise tag, and this is what they're talking about.
$28 million. Right? So, yes, it's good football players. But George Pickens is looking at it going, no, I'm the most talented receiver in football. That's what he thinks, and he has every right to think that. He's not crazy for thinking that. We know it. It's real. He's going, wait, Jamar Chase is making 40. I'm taller. I might be every bit as fast, if not faster. I just haven't been with the Bengals and Joe Burrow. You saw 1 year I had with Dak Prescott. Look what I did. He's going, wait, CeeDee Lamb's awesome. And I agree, CeeDee Lamb's really good. But he's looking across the field going, he's not as good as me. He's making 35. I'm certainly worth more than that.
Now, he's probably not saying that.
That's for sure. And then he can
I
go
don't think he's saying that.
with David Mulugeta and turn on the film and go, hey, look, Jerry, look, when CeeDee's over here and I'm over here, look at the defense. They all go to me. They all double team me. Look, game one, they all double team me. Game two, they all double team. I'm the freaking man. And he's going to be able to say that. And there's going to be plenty of visual evidence to back it up. And that's where, the rubber doesn't hit the road the right damn way here with $27 million for a guy of George Pickens' stature. No way.
We had a fairly spirited discussion about this on Tuesday at the Scouting Combine. Shereen Williams, Miles Simmons, and I. Shereen believes CeeDee Lamb's better than George Pickens, and I reminded her gently that your film study suggests that Pickens is better. Pickens is more feared. Pickens is the guy who's demanding the extra attention and sometimes beating it.
Definitely.
Look at what David Flournoy did when, remember that
exactly
the second, Lamb was out of a game.
He was out, right?
Flournoy just went off. Right. Why? Because they were doing everything they could to keep George Pickens from killing him.
Exactly right. Was that the Lions game late in the year? I can't remember exactly who.
See, they're explaining something that people are not giving George Pickens credit for. The reason why George Pickens was taken out of the Rams game, the Lions game, is because they did everything they could do to stop George Pickens. And the issue is Brian Schottenheimer failed him and didn't try to do anything to counter what they were doing. That's what they're explaining too.
The hell they were playing there that game. But yes, that's exactly the point. You got beneficial looks. And
Ryan Flanoy.
Ryan Flanoy
David,
got
sorry, Ryan.
George
David.
Pickens got double teamed everywhere. I think you might have, but regardless, yes, that's what a great receiver can do. He can open up an offense. He can command attention. He can make a defense almost predictable because they're so worried about what you can do. There's only so many defenses that can play to protect against that receiver going deep and doing that. So that's the value of that guy. But yes, George Pickens, his talent it's up there with anybody in football.
Yeah, and we saw how Jerry went on and on about George Pickens the night that he tore up the Raiders in the Monday night game, how it was poetic and it was like an opera, which makes absolutely no sense. It was the Detroit game, December 4, 9 catches for 115 yards for Ryan Flanoy, because was that when CeeDee Lamb got a concussion?
Yeah, Lamb was going off too. They were so worried about George Pickens. Lamb was going off. Then he got hurt. And then they were like, let's go all in more on stopping Pickens. And Flanoy's like, I'm not that bad. I can still get open here too. And he tore them apart. And they bought Lamb, even though he didn't play the whole game, I think he had like 100 yards at halftime before he got hurt. And Flanoy took advantage of the second half and got 100 yards in the second half of the football game.
6 for 121 for Lamb that night. And that's funny. You know, it feels like it was forever ago. It was 3 months ago. And it was that Thursday night game after Thanksgiving. And that's when I was climbing aboard the Cowboys bandwagon.
Yeah, we know.
That's when I was starting to think,
Eagles, Cowboys.
The Cowboys could do something this year.
You were like the Village Bicycle there for a while. You were looking for everybody to give you a ride.
I'm like Snoop. You send me the jersey, I'll wear it, baby.
Yeah. Okay.
But, well, hey, I wanted to see George Pickens flourish because I've been an early adopter.
You were.
Of George Pickens, and I believe that his talents were wasted. We had the conversation last week about how, he's got, and this is the problem, and I'm glad we came back here. What he needs to do, I think back to the Eric Burkhart manifesto when Kyler Murray was up for a new contract. Not that I would recommend a single-spaced, small font, you need a microscope to read it, tweet. Remember that?
Yes.
That thing that was like, a million reasons why Kyler Murray won't play unless he gets a new contract. But you got to do something now to get everyone's attention, and you have to explain it in a very clear and compelling way. The problem is, because Pickens' reputation took a hit during his time in Pittsburgh, it's going to be hard for him to do it. And my position is any great receiver that was playing for the Steelers from 2022 through 2024 would be viewed the same way. Randy Moss would be viewed the same way.
Hey, I'm telling you right now, we can hit on Florio all we want to, but he just spit a major fact right here. Man, this dude dropped a megaton bomb. He said if you put any great receiver on the Pittsburgh Steelers the same time that George Pickens was on that team, they would have been frustrated and probably would be doing some of the same things that George Pickens did on that team because they were that bad offensively. He dropped the bar right there. Man, he dropped a bar.
Because he would have eventually lost his mind and or his shit if he was catching passes from Kenny Pickett, Justin Fields, and Russell Wilson.
Did I not make this argument weeks ago? Man, who wouldn't be mad? Who wouldn't be mad playing with the quarterbacks that George Pickens? I mean, they lucky didn't show out worse than he did.
And they weren't throwing to him as often as they could.
You're right.
And they weren't showcasing him in the offense the way they should have.
I don't
You have
disagree.
an elite talent that you're not using. At some point, that guy is going to say, what the hell is going on here?
Yes, I think you're totally right about that. I think every top receiver just about in the history of time would have won crazy in there in Pittsburgh and not getting the ball. The only one I think of when you said it, I go, Larry Fitzgerald would have found a nice way to quietly keep it to himself.
He just
and
would
say,
have
"Give me the
retired.
ball." Right?
He just would have retired.
But everybody else, whether it's T.O., Antonio Brown, whoever, Mike Evans in his prime, they all would have been annoyed with how they were used with Pittsburgh in a similar situation to George Pickens.
But that works against him now because that's what's going to happen. And Sharina and I have argued a little bit.
Good.
You know, because she brought up, oh, he was fine.
All right, I'm gonna disagree with you on this one. Where is this? Who is this over here saying this? Backbreaker. I'm gonna disagree with you on this one because Justin Jefferson actually did play with a quarterback that's pretty good. If I'm not mistaken, Justin Jefferson played with his name slips my mind now. Kirk Cousins. Man, Kirk Cousins ain't no terrible quarterback. Man, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Kirk Cousins ain't bad. Kirk Cousins is not bad. Let me see here. Justin Jefferson and Kirk Cousins, bro, they broke records together. None of the quarterbacks that Pickens played with are nowhere near as good as Kirk Cousins. I don't even know where you rank Kirk Cousins. But let me add to the other part to you and tell you where I know that maybe you haven't been checking outside of the Cowboys. Justin Jefferson destroyed J.J. McCarthy. I don't know where you been. Man, Justin Jefferson went scorched earth on J.J. McCarthy. Don't tell me Justin Jefferson wouldn't complain. Justin Jefferson went scorched earth. And right now, this is one of the reasons why J.J. McCarthy, they're looking to get rid of J.J. McCarthy. Justin Jefferson, man, I've heard George Pickens say one thing about the quarterbacks he's played with, or I haven't heard him really talking bad about them in the grand scheme of things. Maybe somebody can correct me. But I can tell you what I heard from Justin Jefferson. Man, Justin Jefferson, I did a video about it on my other channel. Justin Jefferson went scorched earth on J.J. McCarthy. I don't think you can go any worse than what he went on J.J. McCarthy.
Multiple times. It's like, well, I haven't even multiple like that. Like, let's not fall for the Cowboys' effort to engage in PR.
Yes.
Right. And see, that's the thing. They either value this guy and want him on the team or they don't. And I would say to you, Jerry, if you truly value this guy, don't play games. You don't have to win every negotiation. Sometimes the win is properly paying a player to the point where he's excited to be there and he's motivated to get everything out of his ability and he's going to go all out and all in the traditional way, not the way that you made us think that it meant. But he's going to be as happy as he can be because you're right. He's not going to play for 27, and if he does show up for 27, what's he going to do?
Yeah.
Oh, I have a hamstring injury.
He's going to make life hard.
And again, backbreaker, I don't know where you're getting your information, but there is open information that I'm not going to go on here about Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson people have seen Garrett Wilson openly complain about the offense in New York too. Excuse me. He's done some of the same things.
Back stiff. And he's going to just kick the can through 2026 and do it all over again next year.
I think so too. That's again bring us full circle here. I know we got to go to break and all that, but yeah, that's where they got to figure out this situation first before they can sit there and say, "Hey, we're going to spend big in free agency and do whatever." They got to figure out how much money they're going to allot towards him, and of course that looks like if George Pickens has his way, it's going to be north of $40 million a year.
No, it's not.
And I'm telling you. At some point,
I don't believe
not
that
right now, maybe not next year. The over-under is a year and a half. They're going to have to choose between Pickens and CeeDee Lamb.
I don't know about that part either. I don't know if I'm buying that.
Me?
No, I made the point, and I wanted to see what your reaction is.
But
my point is, at some point in the next 2 years, they're going to have to choose between one or the other, like they did with Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb.
Definitely. Right, yes. And as it stands right now and where they are, I mean, you know who I think's more talented. Now, off the field, and will he be a professional, and all of those type of things. Those are things.
Big Amish, you seem to agree. You said, Big Amish said, I don't believe GP and CD coexist more than another year. We have to be cognizant of the diva syndrome, especially if things go wrong. Well, you know what, Big Amish? Let me say this. Maybe you're right. Maybe the Cowboys want to see another year of this and see how they coexist. That could be something too. I just find that to be. I don't see it though. You could be right. I don't see it. I think they're going to be glad. I think they're going to be glad to play together. I do.
Things that they're going to know better than me, for sure. But what we saw this year is they love him. They've been saying they love him. And he certainly seemed to fit into that Dallas Cowboy culture.
My question is, are they equipped to make a reliable and accurate decision based upon the available information as to whether he can be trusted?
Mm-hmm.
And really, though, backbreaker, when you think about it in the grand scheme of things, I know you're talking about the crying and complaining, but George didn't really do. It wasn't as much as crying and complaining as it was some of the antics, I believe.
With the kind of contract that would put all the eggs in the George Pickens basket.
Yeah.
Can he be? They're the only ones who are in a position